mind. Ding. Captured divine-level compatible pilot, Dragon Maiden. Compatibility, 97. Specialization, combat tactical command. Confirm recruitment. Chun Mo regarded the complex-eyed, crimson-haired woman before him, calmly reciting in his heart. Confirm. Ding. Divine-level pilot. Dragon Maiden, confirmed to join. Unlocking ultimate authority, tactical command core. Notice. All weapon platforms and mech units within the fortress can engage in coordinated autonomous combat. Boosting combat power by 300. Chapter 60. The warmth of home. Chun Mo gazed at the complex-eyed, crimson-haired woman before him, confirming her recruitment in his mind. The system's prompts still echoed in his thoughts, yet there was no hint of exuberance or pride on his face. He simply observed the Dragon Maiden with calmness. This woman, until mere moments ago, had been the sharpest spear of the Celestial Shield Corporation, capable of inflicting catastrophic damage upon the homeward. Now, she was his captive. Her expression was intricate, a blend of shock, confusion, and incomprehension, yet beneath it all lay an intrinsic pride and wariness belonging to an ace. Even in her dire predicament, she resembled a caged leopard, poised to reveal her sharpest claws at any moment. Surrounding them was the cacophony of survivors reveling in their escape. At that moment, Chun Mo approached her. He did not interrogate her with the demeanor of a victor, nor did he confine her within the cold confines of a prison cell. Instead, he calmly instructed the two combat team members responsible for escorting her. Remove her restraints. This command startled everyone. Even the two combatants hesitated. One couldn't help but remind him. Boss, she is. Remove them. Chun Mo's tone brooked no argument. Yes. With a soft click, the high-strength shackles binding the Dragon Maiden's wrists were released. She blinked in astonishment, flexing her wrists as she regarded Chun Mo, her wariness intensifying. Did he not fear she might attack? Follow me. Chun Mo did not afford her much time to ponder. Turning and striding deeper into the corridor, the Dragon Maiden hesitated. She was uncertain of this man's intentions. A conspiracy? A new form of humiliation? Yet she had no alternative. She trailed behind, each step cautious, her muscles taut, ready to respond to any unforeseen circumstance. However, what she witnessed next gradually unraveled her tension, supplanted instead by an even more bewildering emotion. Chun Mo pushed open a heavy metal door. A richer, fresher botanical aroma, accompanied by warm, humid air, enveloped her. The Dragon Maiden instinctively looked up. Then, she froze in place, her usually fiery eyes wide with astonishment. What lay before her was not an armory or a laboratory, but a vast, vibrant indoor greenhouse. Rows of neatly arranged planting racks showcased lush vegetables basking under simulated sunlight, unfurling their tender leaves. Glimmering droplets slid down the leaf veins, while nearby, red tomatoes, purple eggplants, and green peppers hung from their stems, brimming with the raw, untamed vitality of life. An automated irrigation system operated silently, delivering nutrient-rich moisture precisely to the roots of each plant. This, the Dragon Maiden's breath quickened. She understood better than anyone what this meant in the wasteland. It signified a stable food source, liberation from the shackles of scavenging and hunting, an almost divine ability to create life. The Celestial Shield Corporation possessed the most cutting-edge technology. They could forge the most powerful mechs and construct the sturdiest bases. Yet, they could not accomplish this. Their sustenance continues to hinge upon pre-war reserves and a highly consumptive nutritional synthesis system. In the governor's ideology, agriculture is deemed inefficient, fragile, and incompatible with the principles of survival in a post-apocalyptic world. What the Celestial Shield requires are warriors, not farmers. Yet, the vibrant scene before her struck her like a resounding slap, shattering the frigid dogmas instilled in her over the past decade. It became evident that formidable technology could serve purposes beyond the creation of instruments of slaughter. It could also be harnessed for cultivation. Chun Mo remained silent, observing her as her astonishment gradually disintegrated, before leading her to the next location. This was a more spacious hall. When the Dragon Lady beheld the scene inside, her already shaken worldview was once again obliterated. A large screen showcased a somewhat familiar pre-war comedy film, with comical music and exaggerated performances eliciting waves of laughter from the dozens of survivors below. They were not combatants, merely ordinary individuals who had been rescued. Elders, children, men, and women. Each wore clean clothing, their faces adorned with genuine, contented smiles. In their hands were popcorn and drinks, reminiscent of the most ordinary cinema from the days before the apocalypse. Entertainment? The very idea was foreign, even somewhat ludicrous, to the Dragon Lady. In the Celestial Shield Corporation, any form of amusement was strictly prohibited, as it was believed to undermine a soldier's resolve and render them weak. Discipline, obedience, and combat were perceived as the entirety of existence. Yet, the harmonious tableau before her invoked an unprecedented and profound self-doubt. She gazed at the smiles of those individuals and listened to their laughter, suddenly realizing that it had been ages since she had smiled herself. Since the day she was selected by the Celestial Shield to become an ace pilot, her world had been reduced to cold data, grueling training, and relentless combat. She had believed that this constituted strength, that it represented the sole principle of survival in the wasteland. However, here, within the fortress of her adversaries, she witnessed clean rooms, fresh vegetables, and people watching films and laughing heartily. There was no frigid discipline, no rigid hierarchy, but rather an essence she had never experienced before, something called life. A powerful essence known as humanity. And it was this very group of individuals who had just decisively defeated the elite squad of the Celestial Shield and captured her. The ace. Did strength equate to coldness? For the first time, the Dragon Lady's convictions wavered dramatically. Her heart, encased in layers of coldness and pride, was profoundly impacted by this warm, vibrant home filled with the aroma of life. Chapter 61. The Clash of Ideologies. The tour concluded. The Dragon Lady followed Chun Mo back through the spacious, luminous metallic corridor she had traversed while being escorted. Her steps felt unsteady, her mind still buzzing from the astonishing sights she had just witnessed. The vibrant greenhouse, the dew-laden, fresh vegetables, and the entertainment hall filled with laughter. Each image struck her like a heavy hammer, relentlessly battering against the hardened, icy worldview that the Celestial Shield had forged over the past 2 decades. It became clear that, even in the apocalypse, humanity could exist without resembling beasts. It was evident that technology was not solely for the manufacture of weapons and fortifications. She maintained her silence, her thoughts tumultuous. She attempted to rationalize the illogical existence within this moving fortress, seeking to assign a reasonable, wasteland-compliant designation to this place, called the Arkansas. Was it a deception? A false paradise designed to lull hearts into complacency? Yet, the smiles on the faces of the survivors could not be feigned. That genuine, hopeful, and serene expression of life could not be masked by any falsehood. What, then, was the ulterior motive of this man, named Chun Mo? Was he nurturing a group of seemingly useless ordinary people simply to gratify his absurd, messianic complex? It seemed improbable. In the wasteland, any benevolence devoid of a clear objective was the most foolish act of self-destruction. The Dragon Lady found herself perplexed, unable to penetrate the depths of this situation. This sensation of being beyond her comprehension and control filled her with unprecedented agitation and fear. As her mind spiraled, Chun Mo halted at the entrance of the command bridge. The metallic door slid open silently, revealing an even more spacious and illuminated area within. It starkly contrasted with her expectation of a military command center teeming with flashing buttons, cold screens, and a tense atmosphere. Here, the view was exceptionally expansive. The massive curved viewport occupied nearly an entire wall, offering a panoramic view of the outside world. Several key control consoles were distributed across various zones, equally intricate yet arranged with a sense of order that allowed for ample movement. In fact, a pot of vibrant greenery nestled in the corner added a touch of life to the environment. It was clean, efficient, and imbued with a hint of relaxation. Was this the heart of the terrifying warship? The Dragon Lady's perception was once again transformed. Sit. Chun Mo gestured towards a chair beside the captain's seat before comfortably taking his place at the helm. His demeanor was relaxed, as if inviting a friend over for a visit rather than interrogating a captive who had just battled fiercely against him. The Dragon Lady remained motionless, her gaze fixed on Chun Mo, her wariness and vigilance palpable. What do you intend? She spoke coldly, her voice tinged with an unrecognized hoarseness. If you seek intelligence from me regarding the Celestial Shield, I advise you to abandon that pursuit. If you wish to kill me, do so, spare me the pretentious charades. Upon hearing her words, Chun Mo glanced up, his gaze calm, resembling that of a patient adult observing a somewhat obstinate child. He refrained from answering her question, instead reaching out to lightly tap his control screen. A gentle hum resonated as a soft beam of light emanated from the central holographic projection device, gradually constructing an intricate three-dimensional model in the air between them. It was a complex system comprised of countless flowing blue dots and lines, continuously morphing. A torrent of data traversed within, intersecting, reconfiguring, and forming diagrams of functional modules, weapon platforms, energy cores, defense systems, drone swarms, and mecha units. Every combat unit aboard the Ark was depicted as a clearly defined node within this three-dimensional blueprint. each connected by myriad golden energy conduits culminating at the very core of the system. At that central position lay a reserved, human-shaped silhouette, a blank space. The Dragon Lady's pupils constricted upon witnessing this model, her professional acumen allowing her to instantly discern the revolutionary combat philosophy embedded within this system. This is not merely a rudimentary weapon control platform. It serves as the cerebral core of tactical command. It possesses the ultimate authority to integrate all independent combat units into a formidable, efficient, and instantaneous war machine. She murmured in disbelief. This is the tactical command core. Chun Mo stated the name with a calm demeanor, as if discussing an inconsequential matter. This is what I have prepared for you. For me? The Dragon Lady was taken aback, instinctively questioning, only to be overtaken by a wave of derision on her face. Do you truly believe that a set of extravagant blueprints, whose origins remain a mystery, could entice me to betray the shield of heaven? Chun Mo, you underestimate me far too much. I do not underestimate you, Dragon Lady. Chun Mo's gaze sharpened, tinged with disdain for the Shield of Heaven Corporation. What did you say? The Dragon Lady's eyes turned icy. An aura of formidable power emanating from her. Insulting her was permissible, but to insult the Shield of Heaven was unacceptable. Ignoring the pressure she exerted, Chun Mo stood and approached the holographic projection, gently tapping on the blank area of the humanoid outline. Do you know where the path of the Shield of Heaven ultimately leads? He did not give the Dragon Lady a chance to retort. He continued unabated. The philosophy of the Shield of Heaven is one of filtration. They leverage technology to establish a cold, inhumane set of rules. Within this framework, humanity is reduced to quantifiable resources. Those deemed useful are the elites, the warriors. Those considered useless are burdens, mere refuse to be discarded. They employ cutting-edge technology to forge the most powerful weapons, waging the most brutal wars, incessantly filtering and eliminating, under the guise of purification, for the continuation of humanity. A cold smile crept upon Chun Mo's lips. It sounds noble, does it not? Yet, fundamentally, how does this differ from nurturing a venomous insect? The last survivor, the most toxic, remains an insect, unable to transform into a dragon. A civilization of humanity stripped of compassion, numbness, and the instinct for slaughter, even if it persists, is indistinguishable from the living dead. Their so-called technological dictatorship is merely a path leading to self-destruction. They are not prolonging humanity, they are enslaving it, tightening a collar around every neck with technology. Each of Chun Mo's words struck the Dragon Lady's heart like a hammer. These words were irrefutable, for she was the most successful product of this system. She understood better than anyone how the frigid principles of the Shield of Heaven operated. Yet she clung to her last vestige of pride, retorting with defiance. The law of the wasteland has always been survival of the fittest. Order must be built upon absolute strength. Your kind-heartedness will only lead to everyone's demise. Strength? Chun Mo chuckled, gesturing towards the viewport, then indicating the blueprint between them. Do you believe that the strength of the Shield of Heaven, which reduces humans to mere machines, is superior? Or is my vision of technology, serving humanity, the true strength? I acknowledge that the technological prowess of the Shield of Heaven is remarkable. Your weapons are advanced, your soldiers are ruthless. Yet, fundamentally, your path is misguided. Technology should not be a tool for enslavement, nor a standard for filtration. Chun Mo's voice resonated with authority within the quiet bridge. It ought to serve as an extension of home. It can purify water, cultivate food, protect those we cherish, allowing us to live with dignity, even in the apocalypse. It can transform our home into a sanctuary, safer, more comfortable, and unassailable. He turned, his gaze ablaze with a confidence and charisma that rendered the Dragon Lady unable to meet his eyes. I do not require your betrayal of the Shield of Heaven, for in my eyes, their constructs are worthless. I am offering you a choice, an opportunity to choose your future. Chun Mo extended his hand towards the humanoid blank space. You may continue to be the sharpest blade in the hands of the Shield of Heaven, a weapon that can be discarded at any moment due to wear or replaced by a superior one. Alternatively, you can stand here, becoming the guardian of this home, the guide and soul of the Tactical Command Corps. Use your talents, your experience, your combat intuition to lead it, to refine it, transforming it into the strongest shield for this home, rather than the spear of slaughter wielded by the Shield of Heaven. Dragon Lady, I am not recruiting a subordinate. I am inviting you to become one of the masters of this home. With those words spoken, silence enveloped the bridge. The Dragon Lady stared blankly at the holographic blueprint, at the softly glowing humanoid outline reserved for her. The words weapon, guardian, home echoed like a spell in her mind. She recalled the cold, barren room in the Shield of Heaven's base, devoid of anything but a bed and terminal. She remembered the governor's orders, delivered with an emotionless gaze, as if manipulating a mere tool. She recalled each victorious battle, rewarded not with comrades' embraces, but cold merit points and rank increases. She had always believed that was strength. That was glory. Yet today, in this moment, she suddenly realized how tragically laughable her once proud existence appeared in the face of Chun Mo's words. She was not the hero of the shield of heaven. She was merely a tool, the sharpest and most effective, but nothing more. A weapon, always replaceable and discardable. And home. She gazed out the viewport. Despite the dimming light, she felt she could penetrate the layers of hull to see the vibrant greenhouse once more. The entertainment hall filled with laughter, Mia and Chinya frolicking, Lin Wan and Su Qing debating, and Yao Wang nestled like a kitten in Chun Mo's embrace. A powerful, unprecedented longing surged within her, like a flood breaching a dam, instantly collapsing the defenses she had built with pride and coldness. She too wished to be part of it. To possess a place to return to have someone welcome her home after the battle's end. The dragon lady's body trembled slightly. She slowly raised her head, looking again at Chinemo. For the first time, the face that always bore pride and confidence showed signs of confusion and vulnerability. She opened her mouth. The words, "Why should I trust you?" caught in her throat, unspoken. Deep within, a voice screamed desperately, "Trust him. This is your only chance to escape the fate of being a weapon." Chun Mo remained silent, simply watching her, awaiting her response. He understood that this woman's heart was in turmoil. The future he painted was one she could never refuse. It was her ultimate sanctuary. Chapter 62, The Dragon Lady's Acceptance. A soft sound echoed. Under Chun Mo's calm gaze, the once proud woman, the dragon lady, knelt without warning on one knee. She lowered her noble head, placing her right hand over her heart on the left side of her chest. In a voice that trembled yet resonated with utmost solemnity, she declared, "I, Long Yu, pledge my loyalty to you. From this moment forth, my life, my fidelity, and all that I possess shall be devoted to you in this home, until death." There were no grandiloquent phrases, no impassioned proclamations. It was merely the earnest vow of a weapon that, having found its sanctuary, uttered the most profound and weighty promise. Chinemo did not immediately assist her. He simply gazed at her until he was certain that the confusion in her eyes had been entirely supplanted by a resolute determination. Before he slowly spoke, "I accept your allegiance. Rise. From this day onward, you are no longer a weapon. You are the guardian of our home." Having said this, he stepped forward to help Long Yu to her feet. She stood, her eyes slightly reddened, yet she fought back the urge to shed tears. Drawing a deep breath, she seemed to expel not only the coldness of over 20 years of existence, but also the last vestige of weakness nestled in her heart. "As proof of my loyalty, and as my declaration to sever ties with the past," she continued, her voice regaining its usual coolness, now imbued with a note of resolve. "I must inform you of a top-secret matter concerning Tiandun Corporation." Chun Mo's gaze sharpened with immediate focus. He resumed his position at the captain's chair, signaling for Long Yu to proceed. "You were correct. The path of Tiandun is a road leading to technological despotism. Yet their ambition is 1,000-fold more insane than you can imagine. They are not content with merely controlling a few settlements, nor with dominating this wasteland. Their ultimate goal is to reboot the Genesis super server, located at the deepest rift in the continental plates, an artifact from a bygone era before the war." "Genesis?" Chun Mo echoed the name, a flicker of curiosity crossing his features. "Indeed, Genesis," Long Yu replied, her tone growing gravely serious. "According to the highest level classified information I have encountered, it is the pinnacle of ancient human technology, a strategic level artificial intelligence possessing a fragment of self-awareness. Its computational power is sufficient to seize control of all global networks and intelligent devices in an instant. In the old world, it was employed to regulate the planet's ecology, energy, and military systems. Yet, in the aftermath of the apocalypse, when the old world crumbled into ruins, the governor believed that Genesis was the sole authority left by the divine on this earth. If they can reboot it, Tiandun could establish an absolute, globally encompassing technological dictatorship overnight. At that point, every survivor, every faction, every individual on this planet would become a node in the Genesis server's data, with life and death, honor and disgrace, thoughts, all determined by the governor through Genesis. His aim is not the continuation of humanity, but to become the god of a new world." The bridge fell into a profound silence. Even Chun Mo, upon absorbing these revelations, felt a tumultuous stir within. The notion of global technological despotism represented a madness and ambition that transcended common comprehension. "Who is the governor?" Chun Mo immediately grasped the crux of the matter. "I do not know. Long Yu shook her head, a hint of bitterness etching her features. Or rather, no one knows. The governor is the supreme leader within Tiandon. A code name, a symbol. He never reveals his true identity. All commands are issued through encrypted channels. We only know he is a madman, obsessively fixated on ancient technology. With an almost pathological desire for control, the organizational structure of Tiandon is entirely built around him. At the top is the governor himself, followed by 3 aides who report directly to him, each responsible for military, research, and internal affairs. My immediate superior, Night Crow, is one of the aides in charge of military matters. Below the aides are elite operatives like myself, known as the Divine Punishment, each possessing a personal mech and an elite squadron. Further down are the ordinary soldiers and technical personnel. Long Yu unreservedly divulged everything she knew, from Tiandon's ultimate goals to its organizational structure, and the enigmatic details concerning the supreme leader, the governor. This information, like pieces of a puzzle, rapidly outlined an unprecedented, colossal, and terrifying adversary in Chun Mo's mind. In the past, Tiandon had merely been a vague and troublesome opponent to him. But now, the visage of this adversary had crystallized into sharp clarity, a technological fanatic intent on rebooting a super server to enslave all humanity. Accompanied by a powerful army meticulously organized and hierarchically structured. After imparting all of this, Long Yu exhaled with relief, as if shedding a boulder that had weighed heavily upon her for years. She looked to Chun Mo, awaiting his response. Chun Mo remained silent. He leaned back in his chair, his long fingers unconsciously tapping lightly on the armrest, producing a rhythmic sound. His gaze drifted toward the vast, arched viewport beyond. Until now, he had been passively responding to various threats in the wasteland, fighting merely for survival. But from this moment forward, he possessed a true objective, one that required active destruction. After some time, a cold yet slightly exhilarated smile slowly graced Chun Mo's lips. He stood, moved to the main console, and called up a macro 3-dimensional map of the entire wasteland area. His finger traced the virtual map, finally resting upon the central feature, a vast, unfathomable rift, akin to a scar upon the earth. Genesis, he murmured the name, his eyes igniting with an unprecedented, predatory brilliance. How intriguing. Chapter 63. The birth of the Valkyrie. Chun Mo's gaze shifted from the grand holographic map of the wasteland back to Long Yu, who knelt humbly before him. This woman, who had recently exuded an air of regal pride, now presented her loyalty in the most modest of postures. Her allegiance brought not only a premier combat asset, but also a secret of paramount importance capable of reshaping the entire landscape of the wasteland. The Genesis super server and the governor's plan for global technological despotism. This intelligence struck Chun Mo like a bolt of lightning, cleaving through the mist that had shrouded his previous plans for the future, granting him for the first time a clear and grand ultimate objective. He wasted no time on unnecessary pleasantries. He personally helped Long Yu to her feet, calmly observing her eyes, which, though still cool, had lost their hostility. You mentioned that you existed as a blade. Chun Mo's voice resonated within the stillness of the bridge. Now, it is time to bestow upon you a new identity. Without elaborating further, he turned and strode toward a previously unused control area deep within the bridge. Follow me. Long Yu hesitated for a moment, but quickly fell and stepped behind him. As Chun Mo's authorization was verified, a heavy alloy door silently slid open, revealing the figures of Chinya and Lin Wan beyond. Both girls wore expressions intermingled with tension, excitement, and fervor, their gazes akin to those of acolytes poised to witness the birth of a miracle. The room behind the door was modest in size, yet heavily fortified. At its center stood a solitary, silvery metal platform interconnected by countless pale blue energy conduits. Suspended above it was an unactivated holographic silhouette, intricately formed by complex light pathways. This was the central control room that Chun Mo had reserved for the ultimate authority, the Tactical Command Core. Boss, all preliminary protocols have been written, and the energy lines have been independently integrated, ready to commence at any moment. Chinya spoke rapidly, her voice quivering with excitement. Lin Wan adjusted her glasses and added, "We have rewritten the biological recognition and binding procedures. Once bound, it will be irreversible. Her biological characteristics will become the highest key to the entire command core, deeply intertwined with the system's underlying logic." Chun Mo nodded, turning to Long Yu. "You will undergo biological binding with the main computer of the Arkansas. You will no longer need to pilot any mech, for from the moment binding is complete, the entire Ark, along with all its weapon systems, drones, and sentinel mechs, will become an extension of your body." Long Yu's breath caught in her throat. She stared blankly at the suspended silhouette, her heart racing uncontrollably. To become the soul of the entire fortress? This was a concept that stood in stark contrast to what she had learned at Tiandun Corporation. There, humans were mere add-ons to mechs, disposable entities. Yet here, humans were the core of the system, the sole sovereigns. Taking a deep breath, she forced down the tumult of emotions within her, her usually proud visage now radiating an unprecedented resolve. This was the path she had chosen. I am ready, she stated, each word deliberate. Under the guidance of Qinya and Lin Wan, Long Yu stepped onto the cold metal platform. She extended her right hand, gently placing it into a palm-shaped recess at the center of the platform. Biometric identification confirmed. Gene sequence scan confirmed. Neural signal fluctuation confirmed. Warning, an irreversible deep binding is about to commence. Do you confirm? The cold, mechanical voice echoed. Without a hint of hesitation, Long Yu replied, confirm. At the moment of her confirmation, a gentle blue light emanated from the recess, enveloping her entire hand. A warm sensation coursed through her arm, rapidly spreading throughout her body. She felt her consciousness being drawn away by an invisible force, pulled into a vast digital ocean composed of countless streams of blue data. Images and information erupted from the Ark's underlying database, revealing turret schematics, energy flow, drone swarms. Even the temperature of every room and the surveillance of every corridor, all laid out before her mind's eye, as if they were innate memories. The sensation was extraordinarily wondrous. Simultaneously, within the central control room, the previously ethereal silhouette began to solidify at a visible speed. Countless data streams surged into it, weaving flesh and soul for a newly born deity. Qinya and Lin Wan anxiously monitored the rapidly scrolling code on the screen, their palms slick with sweat. Core activation progress, 78, 79, 80%. System logic self-consistency complete. Permission integration commencing. Ding. As the progress bar hit 100%, all scrolling code abruptly halted. The control room fell into an instant silence. Then, a voice emerged from the speakers, distinctly different from the earlier cold mechanical tones. It was unique, possessing the calm clarity of synthesized speech intertwined with an indescribable softness and human quality, unmistakably feminine. Tactical command core activated. System self-check complete. All functional modules operating normally. Highest authority key binding successful. Guide, Long Yu. System naming protocol initiated, awaiting Commander-S directive. It worked. Qinya and Lin Wan nearly leaped with joy, embracing each other with tears in their eyes. A faint smile of relief graced Chun Mo's face as he gazed at the now fully solidified silhouette, radiating a gentle blue light. From today onward, you shall be known as Valkyrie. Name confirmed. The entity referred to as Valkyrie responded without delay, her voice resonating with clarity. Valkyrie greets you, Commander. In the next moment, this clear, calm, yet humanized voice echoed throughout all broadcast units of the Ark, reaching every corner of the fortress. The battle team members dining in the cafeteria paused mid-bite, looking around in confusion. What was that? Sounds like a woman? Dr. Zhou Min, in the medical room preparing new pharmaceuticals, adjusted her glasses, curiosity evident on her face. Survivors in the entertainment hall watching a film turned to each other, whispering with intrigue. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Mia, who had been discussing weapon modification plans with Su Qing, jumped up dramatically from her chair. What the hell? Who's speaking? Sounds pretty exciting. Has the boss brought in another charming voice? In the central control room, Long Yu slowly opened her eyes. She felt a marvelous new connection, intertwined with the fortress. Gazing at the silhouette before her, for the first time realizing the significance of her existence. No longer a weapon, but a guardian. Valkyrie, Chun Mo disregarded the commotion outside. Issuing his first command, immediately perform a self-check and optimization of the entire ship's energy system. Command received. As Valkyrie's voice resonated, a massive screen in the room illuminated, revealing the Ark's intricate energy network structure. Countless red light points, representing energy flows, flickered rapidly, and dozens of nodes were marked instantaneously. Detected 37 redundant loss nodes in the energy network, performing dynamic overload optimization. Optimization plan generated and executing. Almost as soon as she finished speaking, the lights of the entire Ark flickered, and in the next moment, they brightened by at least 10%, with an incredibly stable output. Optimization complete. Overall energy efficiency increased by 7.2%. Reactor standby loss reduced by 11%. Valkyrie reported calmly. Chapter 64. The Symphony of Steel Defense Platform Optimization complete. Fire coverage efficiency increased by 240%. Ammunition redundancy consumption reduced by 70%. Valkyrie's voice echoed calmly within the bridge, as if stating an inconsequential fact. What the hell? Mia's exclamation shattered the bridge's tranquility. She leaped from her drone control station and rushed over to Su Qing. Disbelief etched on her face as she stared at the now tranquil screen. What was that just now? An animation? Sister Su Qing, when did you become so powerful? It wasn't me. Su Qing shook her head, her face displaying a complex expression that mingled shock and elation. She was the Valkyrie. The system has detected a high synchronization between your combat style and the drone swarm. Shall I take control and optimize the drone coordination tactics? The voice of the Valkyrie resonated timely in Mia's ear. For a moment, Mia was taken aback. But soon her face blossomed with an unprecedented excitement akin to a child receiving a coveted New Year's toy. She darted back to her seat, plopping down eagerly, and exclaimed, "Authorize. Immediately. Right now? Let me see your prowess." Command received. The screen before Mia transformed into an entirely new tactical interface. In the hangar of the home, thousands of previously dormant drone icons were simultaneously illuminated. In the next instant, these countless luminous dots surged forth like a swarm of startled bees, commencing a dazzling display upon the three-dimensional simulated battlefield. No longer divided into small squads fighting independently as Mia had previously commanded, under the Valkyrie's guidance, these thousands of drones coalesced into a singular, unified entity pulsating with life. At times, they converged to form a colossal wall of death, composed of countless whirling blades, capable of shredding any foe bold enough to approach. At other times, they dispersed into hundreds of triad assault teams, rapidly maneuvering across the battlefield to simulate precise strikes on critical components such as engines and weapons of enemy vessels. Most terrifying of all, they could instantaneously transition from a highly dispersed combat formation to a massive, drill-like spiral formation, executing a saturated suicide attack on the enemy flagship. How magnificent! This is utterly breathtaking. Mia felt her mouth almost watering as she witnessed the realization of once unattainable, outlandish tactics that had previously eluded her grasp due to operational limitations. No longer was she merely a pilot. She had transformed into a general, commanding thousands of fearless steel soldiers who were utterly obedient. If Su Qing and Mia experienced an intuitive leap in combat capability brought forth by the new system, then Qinya, positioned within the hangar, bore witness to a miracle of another dimension. Warning: unauthorized personnel, please vacate the restricted area immediately. A chilling electronic voice echoed. As Qinya turned, she beheld a sentry mech. Originally intended as a spare parts unit with only basic operational capabilities restored, having autonomously descended from its mounting. Its red electronic sensor illuminated. It strode steadily within the vast hangar, conducting autonomous patrols. Its movements were fluid, turns precise, each step seemingly calculated with meticulous precision. Upon encountering obstacles, it would preemptively devise routes to circumvent them. When staff approached, it would halt and issue warnings. It had come to life, no longer necessitating a pilot or remote control. Under the Valkyrie's command, this Cold War machine had acquired a soul of its own. Autonomous Vigilance Module activated, the Valkyrie's voice resonated in Qinya's communicator. It can patrol designated areas continuously for 24 hours based on preset commands and autonomously identify potential threats. Shall this function be expanded to all spare mech units? My heavens! Qinya trembled with excitement, gazing at the patrolling sentry as if it were her most exceptional child. Well done, Valkyrie. You are truly a genius. From turrets to drones, and now to sentry mechs. Within mere minutes, every combat unit aboard the home had undergone a profound metamorphosis under the Valkyrie's command. Within the bridge, Chen Mo observed silently, taking in Su Qing's expression of mixed shock and joy, and Mia's fervent excitement as if she longed to dive into the screen. He too felt an unprecedented sense of reassurance in this newfound strength. Yet, he understood that all of this was merely data and simulation. New power must be tempered in the crucible of blood. He slowly rose, making his way to the enormous conference table at the center of the bridge, projecting a three-dimensional holographic map of the wasteland. All eyes were instantly drawn to him. Theoretical discussions have sufficed. Chen Mo's voice, though soft, carried an undeniable decisiveness. It is time for a genuine field exercise. His finger glided across the holographic map, finally resting on a derelict structure approximately 300 kilometers from their current location in a meteor crater. The marked site was a desolate large-scale civilian airport. Valkyrie. Chen Mo's gaze sharpened. Report the known intelligence of the target area. Command received. The Valkyrie's response was instantaneous. Target: abandoned airport number 7. According to data from the database and prior satellite reconnaissance, this area has become a gathering ground for flying variants due to the abundance of open spaces and high-rise structures. It is estimated to harbor over 500 gargoyles and night stalkers. Danger level, moderate to high. Flying variants had long been one of the most troublesome foes in the wasteland. Their speed was formidable, their movements unpredictable, making conventional ground firepower largely ineffective against them. For any survivor group, that airport represented an absolute no-go zone. However, the faces of those present displayed not fear, but a glimmer of eager anticipation upon hearing this intelligence. They desperately craved a resounding victory to validate their newfound strength. Excellent. Chun Mo's lips curled into a cold smile. Target, abandoned airport number 7. Let us herald our first Iron Symphony. Chapter 65. The initial battle. The home arrived at the abandoned airport. A site that once symbolized humanity's civilization and ambition to conquer the skies, now reduced to crumbling ruins. The ripped-off terminal roof resembled the skeletal remains of a colossal beast, exposing rusted steel beams. Massive cracks had fragmented the once smooth runway into a disarray of rubble. An eerie scent of decay and mingled blood permeated the air. While thousands of black dots hovered in the overcast sky, new masters of this wasteland, various forms of flying mutants. Some were colossal creatures with wingspans exceeding 5 meters, reminiscent of prehistoric pterosaurs, while others, with razor-sharp claws, formed flocks of avian monsters. Additionally, there were smaller, incredibly swift entities, akin to oversized insects. They emitted sharp, piercing shrieks that coalesced into a disorienting cacophony. Yet within the bridge of the home, an unusual tranquility prevailed. Everyone was at their stations, their faces betraying an unspoken blend of tension and anticipation. This was the Valkyrie's first real combat. Su Qing sat at the weapon control console, her hands poised above the screen but refraining from the usual firepower calculations. Instead, she gazed at the densely packed red dots automatically marked on the screen, her expression contemplative. Mia reclined in her egg chair, similarly delaying her connection to the drone hive, chewing on an energy bar like an eager audience awaiting a grand cinematic spectacle. Qinya and Lin Wan stood in the central control room alongside Lan Yu, their gazes fixed on the expansive data monitoring screen. All combat units had entered a state of readiness, with a target count of 3,427. The threat assessment was complete, and the optimal attack strategy had been generated. The Valkyrie's calm, yet subtly human voice resonated within the bridge, reminiscent of a weather report. Chun Imo sat in the captain's chair, peering out the porthole at the ominous mass of monsters, taking a deep breath. Commence, he uttered but a single word, igniting the battle in that very instant. Yet within the bridge, there was no cacophony of frantic shouts, no hurried keystrokes, and no chaotic transmission of commands. Only the Valkyrie's voice, chillingly serene, declared, command confirmed. Execute cleansing protocol. In the next moment, a hum resonated as the homewards concealed turrets silently slid from their armored enclosures, beginning their precise orientation. Su Qing's pupils dilated in shock. She had issued no commands. Yet, the 12 electromagnetic turrets and 36 rapid-fire gun emplacements she oversaw seemed to possess a life of their own. The barrels adjusted with a speed imperceptible to the naked eye, each turret locking onto a distinct target. Turret 7 aimed at the left wing joint of a pterosaur, while Turret 3 targeted the intersection of flight paths of a cluster of avian creatures. Fire! The Valkyrie's voice barely faded before, boom, boom, 2 concentrated azure beams, coupled with a barrage of metallic projectiles, sliced through the sky from disparate angles like 2 precision scalpels. The massive pterosaur, spiraling above, erupted in a mist of crimson as its left wing was obliterated, its vast form spiraling uncontrollably toward the ground with a mournful wail. In another sector of the sky, a dozen diving avian monstrosities seemed to collide with an invisible wall of shrapnel, bursting mid-air into a rain of flesh. Most terrifyingly, before the fallen pterosaur could reach the ground, it was cross-locked by 2 rapid-fire gun emplacements. A torrent of bullets, akin to 2 precise whips, tore its massive body apart in mid-air. The entire sequence unfolded with seamless fluidity, devoid of any wasted energy. Su Qing watched in a daze, realizing for the first time that her once proud gunnery skills paled in comparison to such raw computational prowess. This was no longer mere artillery, it was artistry. Drone swarm, activate. The Valkyrie's voice echoed once more. Mia instinctively sat up straight, only to find herself devoid of tasks. Hundreds of drones erupted from the homewards deck like a disciplined hive, diverging into several standard squads mid-air. Some teams ascended to conduct wide-area reconnaissance and harassment, while others executed low-altitude strikes, targeting the stragglers attempting to breach the fortress. A select squad maneuvered from a cunning angle, infiltrating the densest formations of monsters, Mia gasped in astonishment as she witnessed one squad entering the enemy ranks, forming a flawless rhombus while firing and advancing at high speed. They resembled a spinning scythe of death, leaving a trail of severed limbs and dismembered bodies in their wake. Such intricate micromanagement was beyond her capability. Even a supercomputer would falter at such complexity. Sentinel mechs, deploy. Mission, eliminate low-altitude and ground threats. Following the Valkyrie's command. For Sentinel mechs, refurbished and upgraded by Chinya, activated, their eyes glowing red as they ascended from the lift platforms. With measured strides, they approached the fortress's edge, their cannons delivering precise finishing shots to the mutated bodies plummeting from above, ensuring no second bullet was wasted. At that moment, the battlefield transformed into an exquisitely engineered machine of slaughter. Turrets executed long-range eliminations and area suppression. Drones handled mid-range infiltration and extermination, while mechs provided close-range defense and finishing shots. The trio operated without any communication, without delay, weaving an impeccably seamless web of firepower. A bird-like monster that had narrowly evaded the electromagnetic cannon's aim found itself instantly targeted by a swarm of drones, reduced to mere fragments. A group of insectoid mutants, relying on their small size and swift speed, attempted to approach the homeworld's armor, but before they could breach a 100-meter radius, they were obliterated by the Sentinel mech's close defense cannons, disintegrating into pools of green ichor. The interconnectivity of the firepower networks was flawless. Every shot was perfectly timed, every strike aimed at the heart, and every coordination executed as if rehearsed 1,000 times. This was no longer combat. It was a masterfully orchestrated, coldly efficient, one-sided massacre. The entire process resembled a symphony composed of steel and flame, resounding with the rhythm of death. Within the bridge, all present were rendered speechless. Mia dropped her energy rod, oblivious to its fall. Su Qing remained transfixed on the continually updating kill reports and the astonishingly low ammunition consumption data, her fingers trembling. Chinya and Lin Wan, watching the deluge of data cascading around the Valkyrie's holographic form, found their minds blank. Long Yu stood behind them, observing the swiftly purged sky, feeling an inexplicable connection with the Valkyrie, her heart swelling with a newfound sense of reverence. She finally comprehended the true essence of what Chen Mo referred to as the Guardian. In less than 10 minutes, as the last avian mutant was precisely pinned to the ground by a descending beam of electromagnetic energy, the once chaotic sky fell silent. The airport's ruins were blanketed in a thick layer of mutant corpses, the acrid scent of char replacing the previous decay and blood. The battle had reached its conclusion. The Valkyrie's voice resonated once more, cleansing protocol complete. Enemy forces eliminated. 3,427. Our ammunition consumption, 3.1%. Energy consumption, 5.4%. No battle losses. Commander, please issue subsequent orders. Silence enveloped the bridge. One could hear a pin drop. All were stunned into speechlessness by this flawless performance. Chen Mo slowly rose from the captain's chair, stepping toward the vast porthole to behold the infernal scene outside and the sky, now cleansed as if washed anew. Deep within his pupils burned an unprecedented flame. He understood that from this moment forth, the homeward's combat methodology, and indeed the entire landscape of warfare in the wasteland, would be irrevocably transformed. Chapter 66. Aiming for Blackstone. Inside the bridge, an eerie quiet prevailed. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. A moderately sized clan of flying mutant creatures, once deemed the rulers of the wasteland's skies, had been entirely eradicated from this planet in under 3 minutes. There was no brutal struggle, no thrilling confrontation, nor even a single scratch on the armor of the homestead. This could hardly be termed a battle. It was a cold, efficient, and chillingly precise extermination. Su Qing exhaled a long, heavy breath, observing her hands trembling slightly from tension, her face displaying a complex expression of bittersweet laughter and rapture for the first time. The artillery skill she had prided herself on appeared crude and primitive before the Valkyrie's divine grasp of the battlefield. Did we win? Is this what victory looks like? She murmured, her voice tinged with an unsettling sense of unreality. What does it mean to win? This is sheer annihilation. A complete and utter obliteration. Mia was the first to snap out of her stupor, springing from her control panel like an exuberant monkey, rushing to Su Qing's side with an ecstatic scream. Valkyrie, you are my goddess. From this day forth, I shall be your most devoted follower. That meat grinder formation was so impressive it made my legs weak. Meanwhile, in the central control room, Long Yu, who had experienced the entire battle through a mental link, slowly opened her eyes. For the first time, she was not fighting as a weapon but protecting as a mind. The sensation of harmonizing all power and perfectly controlling the battlefield intoxicated her, bringing an unprecedented sense of peace. This power was meant to safeguard their home. For the first time, the corners of her mouth curled upward uncontrollably. Within the command bridge, only Chun Mo remained calm. He seemed oblivious to the fervor and excitement of the crew around him. To him, that miraculous battle appeared to be merely a trivial post-dinner entertainment. His gaze traversed the vast, arched porthole beyond the now worthless airport ruins, into the deeper, more distant darkness. This drill confirmed that the homestead had undergone a crucial transformation. In the past, they were like a hard, spiky iron lump, and anyone who dared to take a bite would break their teeth. Yet, they had always been on the defensive, struggling to survive against relentless sieges. Now, they had become a true surgical scalpel, a lethal instrument equipped with a super brain capable of precisely excising any malignant growth. The days of passively taking hits were over. Chun Mo slowly turned and approached the massive conference table at the center of the bridge, raising his hand to lightly tap the air. A hum resonated as a vast, macro three-dimensional map representing the entire wasteland region unfolded above the table. All eyes were instantly drawn to it. The crew, who had just been basking in the joy of victory, quickly sobered, as an invisible, efficient combat atmosphere enveloped the bridge. The theory is sufficient. Chun Mo's voice was soft, yet carried an undeniable decisiveness. We have proven our capacity to take the initiative in attack. The next question is, whom shall we strike? His gaze slowly swept across the map, ultimately landing on a military outpost icon, flashing an ominous red. Long Yu, he called out. Stepping forward, Long Yu stood straight. For the first time attending the tactical meeting of the homestead as a comrade rather than a captive. The intelligence you previously provided on the Shield Company is invaluable. Chun Mo's fingertip pressed on the red icon. Now, I need you to elaborate on Blackstone Prison. Upon hearing the name, Long Yu's expression sharpened, becoming both keen and complex. Blackstone Prison is the most vital frontline base for the Shield Company in the Eastern War Zone, without exception. Her voice regained its usual icy clarity, each word resonating distinctly. Its predecessor was a colossal military prison from before the war, equipped with independent energy supplies and defensive systems. After being seized and modified by the Shield Company, its strategic value manifests primarily in three aspects. Long Yu extended 3 fingers. First, it serves as a foothold for the Shield's eastward expansion and a logistics transfer station. All resources, energy, and population scavenged in the eastern wasteland are first concentrated there for screening and allocation before being sent to the core base further back. Second, it is a large-scale munitions factory and experimental site. The Shield has developed an entire mech production line in its underground area, specifically for manufacturing mass-produced mechs of the Punisher class. Simultaneously, they also deploy some immature new weapons directly in the eradication of surrounding wasteland forces for real-world testing. Third, a flicker of disdain crossed Long Yu's face. It is the largest slave camp of the Shield. All captured insurgents or survivors deemed inferior are transported there to perform the most perilous mining and labor tasks, until they are utterly drained of their last value. The bridge fell into a brief silence after her account. Goodness, isn't this just a super dung pit? Mia wrinkled her nose in distaste. It's filthy and stinky, harboring a pack of mad dogs. On the contrary, Su Qing, who had remained silent until now, suddenly spoke, her eyes glinting with cold light. This is a perfect target. She stepped to the map, pointing at the Blackstone Prison icon. First, its strategic value is sufficiently high. Destroying it would sever a limb of the Shield Company in the Eastern War Zone, inflicting them with prolonged pain. Second, it is far removed from the Shield's core area, ensuring that even if we attack, their main fleet cannot provide effective support in a timely manner. Third, Su Qing's lips curled into a cruel arc. Its resources could satiate our needs. Qinya and Lin Wan's eyes brightened simultaneously. The mech production line, Qinya exclaimed, her voice trembling with excitement. Goodness! If we could bring back the technical data and production equipment from there, and the energy. Lin Wan adjusted her glasses, her eyes filled with data streams. An independent energy station capable of supporting a large munitions factory and prison. Its energy reserves could restore the homestead's reactor to over 90% capacity. What was a heart for the enemy was a treasure trove brimming with riches for the homestead. Everyone's breaths quickened. Chun Mo was not surprised. He calmly looked at Long Yu, posing the final and most critical question. What is its level of defense? Long Yu took a deep breath, beginning to detail the defensive layout of Blackstone Prison as it existed in her mind. The surface defenses of Blackstone Prison are nearly flawless. It features solid high walls with 360-degree coverage, with a heavy artillery turret every 50 meters. The main entrance is fortified with 2 fortress-grade plasma cannons capable of vaporizing any enemies bold enough to charge directly. The internal garrison consists of a fully staffed mech squad of about 50 Punishers, led by an experienced commander. Additionally, there are over 500 armed soldiers responsible for internal patrol and suppression. The aerial defenses are their weak point. Yet they have deployed 16 Hive-style missile silos capable of creating a dense fire interception net against medium to low-altitude flying targets. Long-used descriptions sobered the previously enthused Mia and Shinya. The level of defense was almost that of an impregnable steel fortress, had it been the former homestead. Even at its peak, attempting to gnaw through such a tough bone would have resulted in a mouthful of broken teeth. It indeed sounds like a formidable challenge. Mia scratched her head, pondering their approach. All eyes converged upon Chunimo. He remained silent, merely turning to gaze at an unseen presence within the command bridge, the Valkyrie. He spoke calmly. "I am here, Commander." The Valkyrie's clear and composed voice resonated precisely on cue. "You have received all the intelligence." Chunmo's gaze returned to the colossal holographic map, where, based on the data provided by Long Yu and integrating all their current combat capabilities, a flawless and multifaceted assault plan was devised. Instructions received. The Valkyrie's response was devoid of hesitation. In the next moment, everyone in the command bridge witnessed the birth of a marvel. The three-dimensional map above the conference table transformed instantaneously. The icon of the Blackstone prison expanded infinitely, morphing into a meticulously detailed three-dimensional architectural model, accurate to every brick. Countless streams of pale blue data cascaded from above, flooding into the model. Each piece of intelligence narrated by Long Yu was being analyzed, deconstructed, and reassembled at an astonishing rate of billions of iterations per second, analyzing target defense structures, calculating enemy fire coverage and blind spots, simulating 107 potential emergency plans from the enemy commander, matching optimal attack strategies with our existing weapon platforms. The Valkyrie's voice calmly reported the progress. Under the astonished gazes of all present, the three-dimensional model began to visualize hundreds and thousands of potential attack routes. Red lines indicated failure, while green lines represented success. In mere seconds, almost all red lines vanished, leaving only 3 distinctly different attack plans, each glowing with green radiance. This is not the end. Plan 1 has a success rate of 78%, an estimated duration of 47 minutes, and our casualties at 5%. Plan 2 boasts an 83% success rate, an estimated duration of 32 minutes, and casualties at 3%. Plan 3, however, has a staggering 99.9% success rate, an estimated duration of 7 minutes, and 0 casualties. The Valkyrie clearly outlined the merits of the 3 proposals. A collective gasp echoed throughout the command bridge. A 99.9% success rate, 0 casualties. Mia stammered, feeling as though her worldview had been irrevocably altered. Valkyrie, present the detailed process for Plan 3. Chunmo's tone remained unwavering, as if all of this had been anticipated. Understood. With that, the immense three-dimensional model commenced a dynamic demonstration. Step 1. Divine Descent. The phantom of the homeward appeared not from any direction, but rather manifested above the Blackstone prison with a spatial rift effect. At an altitude of 5,000 meters, it occupied a definitive blind spot of all enemy air defense systems and radar. Utilizing Yao Guang's spatial jump for a surprise assault, the Valkyrie elucidated. Step 2. Thunderstrike. At the moment of the jump, all of Homeward's long-range artillery would unleash an unavoidable, precision strike within a fraction of a second on 16 surface-to-air missile silos. Simultaneously, a swarm of drones would descend vertically in a drill-like formation, obliterating the prison's command tower and barracks within 3 seconds. They would strike before the enemy could react, severing their eyes and limbs. Step 3. Internal collapse. After neutralizing all external threats, Chunmo would lead the core combat team, descending in sentinel mechs to breach the prison's interior, eliminating any remaining resistance, and heading straight for the energy core and armory. The anticipated duration of internal urban combat would not exceed 5 minutes. A flawless plan, seamless coordination, and impeccable timing, all culminating in an overwhelming strike from an unexpected dimension. As the demonstration concluded, silence enveloped the command bridge, palpable as a pin drop. After a prolonged moment, Mia struggled to swallow, turning to Chunmo. Is this how we wage war now? A cold smirk finally curved Chunmo's lips. He stood tall, casting his gaze over each eager crew member. All personnel, prepare for battle. 1 hour from now, we embark. Chapter 67. Preparing for landing. An hour of preparation felt remarkably brief amidst the efficient atmosphere. Within the Homeward, The usual relaxed ambience of everyday life had dissipated, replaced by a chilling, lethal pre-battle tension. All non-combat personnel had moved to designated safe zones, while armed combatants swiftly advanced to their positions in silence. The roar of the engines had ceased. The entire fortress lay still, like a colossal beast lurking in the shadows, exuding a palpable silence that quickened the pulse. Inside the command bridge, the quiet was deafening. Mia had returned to her control station, her usual playful demeanor replaced by fervent focus. Su Qing stood at the weapons control console, eyes half closed, seemingly achieving a final mental resonance with the cold artillery. Qinya and Lin Wan meticulously verified equipment parameters at their respective posts, ensuring absolute precision. Occasionally, everyone's gaze would dart to the central command pod, resembling an eggshell, the pivotal key to this operation. The hatch was sealed, yet all knew that Yao Guang was inside. Chun Mo stood before the vast, curved viewport, observing the timeless desolation of the crater outside. Behind him, Long Yu stood silently, poised like a spear ready to launch. Through her mental link with the Valkyrie, she rehearsed every detail of the assault plan in her mind. Final confirmations for all units. Chun Mo's voice shattered the silence of the command bridge. Power systems, normal. Weapon systems, normal. Drone swarm, fully loaded and standing by. Spatial jump engine, fully charged. Crisp reports echoed from various stations. Chun Mo slowly turned to the cockpit where Yao Guang was seated. Yao Guang, are you ready? Ready. The girl's clear and resolute voice resonated through the bridge. Chun Mo's lips curled into a cold smile. Then we depart. Target, Blackstone Prison. Execution, spatial jump. At the moment the command was given, Yao Guang gently pressed her hands against the two floating silver spheres before her. A tremendous, invisible energy was instantaneously extracted from the Homeward's power core, surging wildly into the spatial jump engine. The colossal body of the Homeward began to visibly distort, light being stretched and folded as if an unseen giant was crumpling the fortress. The external scene morphed into a chaotic, flowing mosaic of light and shadow on the viewport. Then, a shrill, ear-piercing sound akin to fabric being torn asunder reverberated through the void. The Homeward, a colossal steel behemoth weighing several tens of thousands of tons, vanished into the twisted labyrinth of rocks as if it had never existed. The Blackstone Prison lay in silence, its dim searchlights weakly sweeping across the barren, desolate expanse surrounding it. On the high walls, a sentinel soldier from the Shield Corporation yawned, idly kicking at the cold machine gun turret beside him. Serving here was the most tedious duty within the Shield Corporation. This fortress of steel, erected upon ruins, was as impenetrable as an ironclad fortress. Not even the muscle-bound mutants, nor all the survivor factions of the Eastern Wasteland combined, could hope to dislodge a single brick from its structure. He glanced up at the overcast sky, contemplating how he would spend his shift change in the underground entertainment area, perhaps indulging in a game or two to unwind. At that moment, however, he caught a glimpse of something flickering within the clouds above. Was it an illusion? He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The sky remained dreary, oppressive, and unchanged. Damn it. I've been feeling increasingly dazed lately, he muttered under his breath, just as he prepared to divert his gaze. In the next instant, his expression froze. He saw a gigantic shadow, so immense it defied description, materializing from the clouds 5,000 meters high without warning. The shadow was so vast that it turned a significant portion of the cloud cover below into an ominous black. It resembled a mountain from another dimension, intruding upon this world, exuding a suffocating sense of oppression that transcended the laws of physics. What is that? The soldier's mouth gaped open, his mind blank as it struggled to comprehend the incomprehensible. Before he could process what he was witnessing, before he could even reach for the alarm beside him, the judgment began. Within the command bridge of the Homeward, the Valkyrie's clear, calm, yet humanized voice resonated, akin to a death sentence. The spatial leap was complete, having reached the target altitude with a margin of error of merely 0.3 meters. Commencing Operation 3. Step 1, Thunderstrike. All fire units, open fire. At the moment the command was issued, dozens of recently serviced close-in weapon systems and electromagnetic artillery, nestled within the belly of the Homeward, awoke like ferocious beasts, simultaneously targeting the ground. Boom, boom, boom. The thunderous cacophony of gunfire shattered the night's silence. Dozens of fiery orange projectiles, akin to divine judgment spears, trailed long arcs as they plummeted from 5,000 meters above. Their target, the 16 honeycomb-style missile silos marked by Longwa. The Blackstone Prison's defense system took a sluggish 0.1 seconds to react, emitting the most chilling alarm ever recorded. But it was too late. On the ground, The impeccably camouflaged launch silo covers had no time to open before being pierced by the descending armor-piercing shells. Boom! A series of violent explosions erupted simultaneously throughout the Blackstone prison. Enormous fireballs shot skyward, illuminating half the night as though it were day. The vast stocks of anti-air missiles stored within the silos detonated, triggering even more terrifying secondary explosions. The ground trembled. The air defense system has been neutralized. The Valkyrie reported the results calmly, as if merely accomplishing a trivial task. Step 2. Decapitation. Drone swarm, engage. Execute the Heaven's Punishment drill formation. The hangar doors of the Homeward slid open silently. Thousands of Sting drones surged forth without pause, resembling a black torrent of steel, swiftly assembling into a colossal, high-speed rotating formation reminiscent of a drill bit. This formation had but one objective: the towering, conspicuous alloy command tower of Blackstone Prison. Enemy attack. All units, retaliate immediately. Bring those things down. Inside the prison, chaos erupted. Countless shield soldiers poured from their barracks, their commander bellowing in desperation over the comms. Yet their eyes had been blinded. Their fists severed before they could locate the enemy. Before they could comprehend the threat, death descended once more. The massive steel drill, composed of thousands of drones, screamed as it pierced the air, plunging directly into the command tower's apex. There was no violent explosion, only the agonizing sound of metal being savagely cut apart. The command tower, a symbol of shield authority forged from a special alloy, crumbled before this terrifying meat grinder, as fragile as a cookie. Within 3 seconds, the entire structure, along with all the panicked command personnel inside, was reduced to a cloud of metal shards and remnants of flesh. Instantly, the drill formation disbanded, transforming into a swarm of lethal entities, descending upon the soldiers who had just emerged from the barracks. A one-sided massacre commenced. 7 minutes later, inside the command bridge of the Homeward, silence reigned. The screen displayed a three-dimensional model of Blackstone Prison, now entirely shaded in red, signifying its destruction. The air defense guns, watchtowers, barracks, and command center, every external defense and living force, had been obliterated. The entire prison had become a burning, silent steel grave. Shin Mo gazed at the screen's results, his expression devoid of emotion. He slowly turned, his gaze sweeping over the eager Mia, Suching, and others. The external sweep is complete. We are ready to land. Let us proceed to collect our spoils. Chapter 68. Internal collapse at Shun Mo's command. The massive hangar doors gradually opened. For specially modified Sentinel mechs stood silently in the launch preparation area. Unlike ordinary Sentinels, these 4 mechs were painted in deeper hues, their joints reinforced with additional armor, and equipped with short-barreled machine guns and high-frequency, vibrating particle sabers for urban combat. Shin Mo, Suching Mia, and Longyue, the 4 most formidable individual combatants aboard the Homeward, would constitute the first assault team. The cockpit doors sealed sequentially, the electronic sensors in the mech's eyes illuminating with an ethereal blue glow. The Valkyrie shared real-time battlefield data with each unit. Shun Mo issued his final directive. Instructions received. The Valkyrie's calm voice echoed in their ears, establishing the assault team channel. Wishing you all good fortune in battle. In the next instant, the locks beneath the 4 mechs simultaneously disengaged. Without a running start or launch assist, the 4 massive war machines leapt straight forwardly from the hangar of the Homeward. 5,000 meters above, the howling winds rushed past their ears as the Blackstone prison below rapidly expanded in their view. The flames flickering on the ground and the thick smoke lingering after the explosions painted a hellish tableau. Hey, this entrance is quite exhilarating. Mia's excited voice rang through the channel, far more thrilling than taking an elevator. Focus. Suching's voice remained as calm as ever. The Valkyrie reporting on the safety status of the landing zone. The area had been scanned, revealing no hostile fire response. Landing was confirmed. Boom, 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 boom. 4 heavy thuds resounded in succession. 4 Sentinel mechs knelt in standard formation, firmly landing in the ravaged square at the center of the prison. Debris and dust exploded upon impact, creating a cacophony against the mech's robust armor. The area had recently endured a cataclysm. The ground was littered with craters and remnants of drone explosions, while the air was thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder and charred metal. The squad had landed and began advancing towards the main structure of the prison. Shun Mo controlled the mech to rise. His rapid-fire cannon aimed directly at the gaping maw of the main building's entrance. At that moment, 2 tongues of flames suddenly erupted from the shadows on either side of the entrance. A few remaining Sky Shield soldiers, clinging to their last vestiges of courage, were manning 2 semi-automatic turret emplacements, unleashing a furious barrage in their direction. Hostile targets detected. The Valkyrie's voice remained devoid of emotion. Before Chen Mo could issue an order, Su Qing and Mia's mechs had already reacted. Su Qing's mech slid sharply to the left, the muzzle of her rapid-fire cannon flaring as a precisely aimed high-explosive shell obliterated the turret and the soldiers behind it. Mia was even more direct. She charged forward through a hail of bullets. Amidst the clattering of ricochets, her mech's high-frequency military blade traced a brilliant arc, and with a sharp crack, the turret on the right was cleaved in two, the cut as smooth as glass. From the moment the enemy opened fire to their complete annihilation, it took less than 3 seconds. Onward they pressed. Chen Mo's voice was steady. The four mechs advanced with heavy strides into the unfathomable darkness of the prison's main building. If the prison's exterior resembled an orderly military fortress, its interior was a filthy, putrid hell on earth. A stench so potent it was nearly suffocating assaulted them. A mingling of sweat, filth, blood, and decay that bespoke of despair. The corridor was narrow and dim, its walls marred with black stains and dried blood. The overhead lights flickered ominously, producing a crackling sound as the shadows of the four mechs danced upon the walls like phantoms. Warning! A multitude of life signals detected on either side of the corridor. The Valkyrie's voice announced, non-combatants. Repeat, non-combatants. Chen Mo slowed his pace. He observed that most of the alloy doors lining the corridor were ajar. These were not prison cells, but rather large pens resembling livestock enclosures. Each contained hundreds of emaciated, barely clothed individuals, huddled in filthy corners like a flock of frightened quails. When they beheld the towering killing machines, their eyes reflected no curiosity, no anger, only a profound, numbing fear. These were the so-called inferior survivors spoken of by Long Yu, slaves of the Sky Shield Corporation. Each wore electronic shackles that flickered with a faint red light. Many bore gruesome wounds from beatings and electrocution. Long Yu's mech came to a halt. She stood motionless, staring intently through the cockpit screen at those who had once been her fellow humans. She had once believed that while the Sky Shield Corporation was ruthless, it at least preserved the last vestiges of human order and dignity. Yet the scene before her struck her like a resounding slap to the face. Here, there was no order, only oppression. No dignity, only savagery. It was a stark contrast to the survivors she had seen aboard the Ark, laughing and watching movies in the entertainment room. Long Yu. Chen Mo's voice echoed through the channel. Long Yu's mech trembled slightly, pulled from her tumultuous thoughts. I'm fine. Her voice was hoarse, yet it carried a chilling resolve, continuing the mission. The squad pressed on. Warning. Armed personnel detected in Corridor 3, numbering 12. They have erected makeshift defenses. I'll take care of it. Mia volunteered, maneuvering her mech down the side path first. A barrage of gunfire and explosions erupted from the depths of the corridor, but mere seconds later, silence reigned once more. All done. Mia's nonchalant voice came through. A group of rabble armed with sticks weren't even a warm-up for me. Urban combat posed no challenge for them, bolstered by the Valkyrie's assistance. The enemy's positions, firepower, and numbers were all calculated by the Valkyrie. Their only task was to appear at the right place at the right time and pull the trigger. They descended further, neutralizing waves of scattered resistance. As they moved deeper, the scent of blood thickened in the air. Upon reaching the core area underground, the Valkyrie issued another alert. Life signal analysis complete. No organized hostile forces remain within the main building. However, a final high-intensity energy response has been detected in the central auditorium area. Armed personnel, approximately 20, are equipped with heavy weaponry. Numerous non-combatants are also gathered there. The central auditorium. Chen Mo's gaze fell on the crimson area marked by the Valkyrie on the mech screen. The last remnants of resistance, along with a multitude of hostages? An icy, murderous intent flickered in his eyes. Everyone, advance to the central auditorium. It is time to bring this farce to an end. Chapter 69. The song amidst the ruins. The four heavy sentinel mechs marched in unison down the deep passage leading to the prison's lowest level. This was the deeper abyss of hell. The stench of decay and blood hung thick in the air, almost tangible, clinging to the cold exteriors of the mechs. The walls of the corridor were layered with blood and grime, their original colors obscured. The lighting here was even dimmer than above, with only the beams of the mech's tactical lights slicing through the darkness to illuminate their path. They passed rows of cells resembling animal cages, inside which the slaves lacked even the strength to lift their heads. They curled in the corners like discarded rag dolls, unaware of their fate. Mia let out a displeased click of her tongue in the channel, but remained silent. Su Qing and Long Yu maintained their silence. Yet the weight of their mechs seemed to increase with each step. Amidst the silence, heavy with death and despair, An exceedingly faint sound that did not belong to this place suddenly pierced through the mesh speakers, reaching their ears. What was that sound? Ding-dong. Very soft, very slow. Like a clear spring cascading onto stone. Then, a series of fluid notes emerged, like tender shoots bravely breaking through the mire, gradually and steadfastly unfurling in the filthy underground space. It was the sound of a piano. The four paused in unison. This was surreal. In this iron hell filled with wails, curses, and the gasps of death, how could there exist such a clean, pure sound of music? The melody bore no ostentation of skill, nor any stirring refrain. It simply conveyed a tranquil narrative. Within the melody of the piano, there resided neither anger nor sorrow, but rather a gentle, soothing power that caressed the heart. It resembled a mother's lullaby, echoing the whispers of a beloved. What on earth is happening? Mia muttered under her breath in disbelief, her tone imbued with a perplexing confusion. Valkyrie, source of the sound confirmed, Chunmo's deep voice stated. Source confirmed. 100 meters ahead, Central Auditorium. The Valkyrie's voice resonated punctually, coinciding with the gathering point of the last armed personnel. The piano's music intertwined with the presence of the final enemy, creating an eerily strange atmosphere. The four mechs hastened their pace, no longer hesitating. As they drew nearer, the melody grew clearer, more enchanting. It flowed like an invisible stream, cleansing the tainted air surrounding them, even easing the murderous intent that had risen within Chun Mo from witnessing too much carnage. At last, they reached the entrance of the central auditorium. The heavy metal doors stood ajar, warm light and the comforting strains of the piano spilling forth from the crevice. Chun Mo maneuvered the mech, extending its colossal mechanical hand to silently push the door open just enough to glimpse the interior. What they beheld was a spacious hall. On the stage rested a black grand piano, before which sat a young girl clad in a faded white dress. Her eyes closed as she immersed herself in her own world. Her slender fingers danced delicately across the black and white keys, the captivating music flowing from her fingertips. Her profile was unblemished, her expression focused and serene, as if everything outside were irrelevant to her. In this filthy hell, she appeared as a pristine white lotus untouched by dust. Seated below the stage, in disarray, were over 20 officers from the Tian Shield Company. They lounged in their chairs, sipping drinks while relishing the girlesque performance. A morbid, satisfied smile adorned their faces, as if they were not in a bloody prison, but rather a high-end private club. Surrounding these officers, in the dim expanse of the auditorium, sat or lay hundreds of ragged prisoners. Their expressions starkly contrasted with the numbness of the slaves Chun Mo had previously encountered. They too had their eyes closed, quietly listening to the melody. Fear and despair had vanished from their faces, replaced by a fleeting, almost obsessive tranquility. The music acted as a gentle anesthetic, allowing them to momentarily forget their pain and the hell they inhabited, providing a rare drop of nourishment to their parched souls. Violence and art, despair and hope, two starkly different images intertwined in an extraordinarily bizarre manner within this small auditorium. Is this what the Valkyrie referred to as a gathering of non-combatants? Mia's voice was hoarse. No one answered her. All were entranced by the surreal tableau before them. Just then, the piece concluded. The girl's fingers descended upon the keys, bringing forth the final note. A brief silence enveloped the auditorium. Clap, clap, clap. A man seated in the front row, adorned with the insignia of a commander, lazily applauded. With a hawk-like nose, a sinister glint in his eyes, and a cigar clenched between his teeth, his face bore an unmasked desire. Miss Anya's music remains as enchanting as ever. He exhaled a plume of smoke, rising leisurely, but after such a long performance. It's time for a change of entertainment. The girl, known as Anya, slowly opened her eyes, a flicker of barely perceptible disgust and fear passing through her clear gaze. She remained silent, instinctively shrinking back slightly. Come here, beckoned the commander with a crooked finger, his smile transforming into something lecherous. Give us a dance for our amusement. If you perform well, I might reward you with a whole loaf of bread. Laughter erupted among the surrounding officers. Anya's complexion paled instantly. She bit her lip tightly, her hands gripping the edge of the piano bench, her body trembling slightly with fear. What? Unwilling? The commander's expression darkened. Don't be ungrateful. Do you think you are something special? Merely a trinket we salvaged from the garbage. If your music weren't of some use, you would have been dragged off to the mines like those wretched commoners outside. As he spoke, he advanced toward the stage, reaching out his massive hand to seize Anya's delicate arm. I warn you, do not touch me. Anya summoned all her courage, shouting fiercely. Oh, quite spirited. Aren't we? The commander's fury ignited completely. He forcefully overturned the piano, producing a jarring crash. Today, You will learn who sets the rules here. He roared. His palm, large as a fan, swinging violently toward Anya's face. She shut her eyes in despair. The surrounding prisoners gasped in suppressed horror, yet none dared to intervene. At that very moment, boom. The heavy metal doors of the auditorium were violently thrust open from the outside with irresistible force. Four black mechs, resembling demonic deities, strode forth with heavy steps at the entrance. Time seemed to freeze for everyone in that instant. The officers within the auditorium wore expressions of shock, their smiles frozen in place as they stared at the four war machines radiating a chilling aura of death, their minds blank. The commander's hand, suspended mid-swing, halted in midair. He turned abruptly, his face shifting from rage to astonishment, ultimately morphing into sheer terror. Enemy attack? He stammered. What answered him was not a warning or an inquiry, but a shadow moving at an astonishing speed. Chunmo's mech sprang into action. He did not even lift the cannon in his hand. The massive Sentinel mech leaped with an agility incongruous to its weight, traversing dozens of meters in an instant to appear before the stage. The cold, glowing mechanical hand, akin to a vice, gripped the commander's head with pinpoint precision. The commander's voice was choked in his throat. His feet left the ground, limbs flailing helplessly in the air like a chicken caught by the neck. Chunmo afforded him neither the opportunity to beg for mercy nor to issue threats. The mechanical hand slowly tightened. Crack! A sound, sharp enough to make one's teeth ache, echoed clearly in the quiet auditorium. The commander's struggles ceased abruptly, his head hanging at an unnatural angle, his body collapsing like a pile of mud. Chunmo casually tossed the lifeless body aside like refuse, landing it at the feet of the now dumbfounded officers. The music came to a halt. The only sound remaining was the low hum of the mech's core power reactor. Chunmo's mech stood silently at the front of the stage, resembling a grim judge from the depths of hell, gazing down upon the trembling ants before him. Su Qing and Mia's mechs had already sealed off all exits of the auditorium. The mecha of Long Yu raised its cannon. The ominous muzzle silently aimed at the remaining 20-odd officers of the Tiandun army. The farce had come to an end. Chapter 70. A new family. Is there anyone else who wishes to test their fate? Chunmo's frigid voice reverberated through the mecha's loudspeaker in the hushed auditorium. No one answered. One officer's psychological defenses crumbled entirely as he screamed and abruptly leaped from his chair, recklessly rushing toward a small side door in a desperate bid for escape. Yet, he had scarcely taken 2 steps. Tat tat tat. A short burst of flame erupted from Mia's mecha cannon. The officer's body was instantly riddled with holes, crashing heavily to the ground. After a brief convulsion, he fell silent forever. This act shattered the last flicker of hope among the remaining officers. Thud. One officer, unable to withstand the mounting pressure, slid from his chair and knelt on the floor, tears streaming down his face as he pleaded for mercy. Please, do not kill me. We surrender. We are willing to surrender. His actions toppled the first domino. The remaining officers hastily discarded their weapons, falling to their knees, burying their heads deep, too terrified to gaze upon the 4 mechas that loomed like harbingers of death. Chunmo's mecha slowly raised its arm. The icy muzzle was aimed at the group of kneeling officers. Sensing the shadow of death, the officers trembled even more violently, a pungent odor permeating the air. Chunmo's gaze held no compassion as he turned to Long Yu's mecha. Long Yu. The voice of Long Yu resonated through the channel, cold and resolute. Eliminate them. Chunmo issued his final command. He had no need for prisoners, especially not those from the Tiandun company. Understood. Long Yu's mecha lifted the heavy cannon. The ominous muzzle began to gather destructive energy. The kneeling officers seemed to sense something ominous, desperately raising their heads. In their pupils reflected a blinding, radiant light that grew ever brighter. In the next instant, boom, a deafening roar consumed everything. The devastating energy beam precisely engulfed that area. There were no screams, no struggles. In the searing heat capable of melting steel, the 20-odd officers of Tiandun, along with their chairs, were instantly vaporized, leaving not even a trace of ash behind. Silence once again enveloped the auditorium, now tinged with the acrid scent of char. Chunmo's mecha slowly turned to face the more than 100 prisoners huddled in the corners, their faces etched with sheer terror. In their eyes, these 4 descending mechas bore no difference from the Tiandun officers moments before, all terrifying monstrosities capable of snuffing out their lives at will. The enormous electronic eye of Chunmo's mecha scanned over each individual. He fell silent for a moment, seemingly observing something. Then, his amplified voice resonated once more. The rulers here are dead. His tone was not loud, yet it reached every ear with clarity. From this moment on, you are free. Free? The prisoners were taken aback. Most had long forgotten the meaning of the word. They numbly raised their heads to gaze at the black mecha, their eyes filled with confusion and disbelief. Chun Mo paid no heed to their reactions, continuing in an even tone, "My homeland requires manpower, builders, not slaves." He gestured toward the gaping door that had been blasted open. "Those who wish to leave may do so now. Those seeking a new beginning may follow me. My rules are simple. First, labor in exchange for food and shelter. Second, abide by order and submit to management. Third, any acts of betrayal or disruption will result in expulsion. The choice is yours. Now, make your decision." Having spoken, Chun Mo fell silent once more. The four mechas stood still, like silent mountains, imposing a wordless pressure upon all. The auditorium sank into a profound silence. The prisoners exchanged glances, none daring to be the first to decide. They feared this might be a new ruse, a fresh, more terrifying abyss. At that moment, a figure slowly rose from the stage. It was Anya. She straightened her faded dress and approached the edge of the stage. Her complexion remained pale, yet her clear eyes sparkled with an unprecedented light known as hope. She looked at Chun Mo's mecha and summoned all her strength to speak. "I will follow you." Her voice was soft, yet in the stillness, it rang out with remarkable clarity. Anya's act was akin to a stone cast into a tranquil lake, instantly shattering the deadlock. An elderly man with gray hair trembled as he stood up from a corner, followed by a young mother cradling her child. Soon, 3, 5, 10, and an increasing number of individuals emerged from their numbness and fear. They looked at each other, then at the solitary girl standing on the stage, and then at the four mechas that had ceased their slaughter. They chose to believe in that flicker of hope. Ultimately, more than half of the prisoners stood up, quietly moving to the front of the stage, gathering behind Anya. Chun Mo observed this ragtag group, now standing tall once more, and the electronic eye of the mecha flickered. He issued a command to Su Qing's mecha. "Su Qing, take them out and wait at the entrance of the homeland." "Understood." Su Qing's mecha nodded, turning to guide the nearly 100 survivors toward the exit of the auditorium with a relatively gentle demeanor. Once all had departed, Chun Mo's voice echoed through the channel once more. "Valkyrie, report on the resource distribution of Blackstone Prison." "Commander, the primary resource points have been marked. The area contains the armory, the energy core, and the supply depot. The most critical targets lie in the mecha production line on the underground 3rd level and the database in the command center on the top floor." "Excellent." Chun Mo's tone was unperturbed. "Mia, proceed to the armory. Longyu, head to the top floor to download data. I will go to the energy core. Control all valuable resources." "Received." "Understood." Mia and Longyu's mechas immediately sprang into action, heading off in different directions. Chun Mo controlled his mecha, taking heavy strides deeper into the prison. An efficient relocation operation had commenced. 1 hour later, above Blackstone Prison, the massive hull of the homeland loomed like a suspended black mountain. The enormous landing bay door slowly descended. Su Qing stood at the doorway, gazing at the nearly 100 survivors, their expressions a mix of fear, awe, and curiosity. "Welcome to the homeland." Her voice was cold, yet it provided a sense of reassurance to all. The survivors ascended the staircase leading to their new lives. As they stepped into the spacious, bright, and impeccably clean corridor of the Ark, everyone was left in awe. This was a stark contrast to the filthy, putrid prison they had known. It felt like two entirely different worlds. Anya led the group, tightly clutching a few sheets of music salvaged from the ruins, her only possession. She lifted her gaze to the futuristic yet impeccably tidy metallic realm before her, and for the first time, her heart, which had long been frozen by despair, felt a flicker of warmth. Soon, transport robots laden with weapons, ammunition, energy, and vast data streams continuously returned to the Arkansas. Chun Mo, Mia, and Longyu's mechas followed suit. As the last Sentinel mech entered the ship's hold, the heavy landing bay doors slowly closed. The Ark's engines emitted a low, resonant roar, and the colossal steel beast gradually ascended, leaving behind the inferno that had turned their previous home into a burning steel grave. Chapter 71. The return of music. The Ark's engines thrummed steadily, propelling them away from the fiery ruins. For Anya and nearly 100 other survivors, the steady rumble sounded like the most melodious music on Earth. Having just endured a hellish massacre, they found themselves aboard a miraculous steel ark at the edge of despair. The emotional contrast left them in a state of bewilderment. Following Chun Mo's instructions, Su Qing was organizing the new arrivals. "Everyone, follow me. We will begin with physical examinations and purification, followed by the issuance of new identification cards and clothing." Her voice was cool yet clear, each word resonating with an undeniable sense of order. The survivors numbly trailed behind her, like puppets on strings. They traversed the remarkably spacious corridor, the metallic floor beneath their feet gleaming as if newly polished, while the overhead lights cast a soft, bright glow. The air was devoid of any foul odor, mingling only with a faint scent of disinfectant and metal. Everything stood in stark contrast to the filthy, foul-smelling, and dim environment of the Blackstone prison. Anya walked among the group, still clutching the damp, dried music sheets with curled edges, her only belongings and the last vestige of her spirit. She curiously surveyed her surroundings. The corridor walls were adorned with unfamiliar artworks, seemingly the imaginative scribbles of a child. She noticed several combat personnel in identical uniforms approaching from the opposite direction. Upon seeing Su Qing, they smiled and greeted her, their gaze sweeping over the new survivors with neither disdain nor scrutiny, only a simple curiosity. It appeared that the inhabitants of this ship lived with an ease Anya had never witnessed in the apocalypse. Before long, they were led to the medical area. Dr. Zhou Min, accompanied by several assistants, methodically conducted examinations for everyone, blood draws, scans, and wound care. Everything was efficient and professional. Mild malnutrition, multiple soft tissue bruises, and significant mental stress. Nothing serious. First, take a shower, change into clean clothes, and then get some rest, she said kindly to a gaunt man. Her tone as gentle as that of a neighborly sister. When it was Anya's turn, she instinctively hid the music sheets behind her. Dr. Zhou noticed her movement, smiled, and without further inquiry, skillfully treated the abrasions on her arms. All done, little girl. Welcome to the Arkansas. After a warm shower and donning a fresh, soft cotton outfit, Anya felt as though she had shed a thick shell composed of filth and despair, her entire being now light and buoyant. The meal consisted of warm meat porridge and compressed bread, simple fare, yet for these survivors who had gone days without proper sustenance, it was a divine delicacy. There was no jostling, no clamor. Each person held their bowl quietly, some even shedding tears mid-meal. After dining, Su Qing escorted them to the makeshift resting area, clean, orderly 6-person rooms furnished with soft beds and brand new linens. You'll rest here tonight. Tomorrow, based on your skills and preferences, we will assign positions. Remember, aboard the Ark, we do not harbor idlers, but neither do we neglect anyone willing to contribute labor, Su Qing concluded before departing. The survivors gazed at their surroundings, a flicker of reality dawning upon them. They had truly been saved. Anya did not retire immediately. Instead, she nestled in a corner of the room with her music sheets, gazing through the small porthole at the profound, unchanging darkness outside. Yet her heart felt an unprecedented tranquility. At that moment, a knock sounded on the door, and a tall figure appeared in the doorway. It was Chen Mo. Instinctively, all in the room stood, faces etched with reverence and tension. Chen Mo did not acknowledge them. His gaze directed solely at Anya, or rather, the music sheet she held. Come with me, he instructed, his voice as even as ever, devoid of discernible emotion. Anya's heart raced, but she clutched the sheets and followed him out. Without a word, Chen Mo led the way, guiding Anya through several corridors until they reached a door. The metallic door slid open to reveal a small but spacious room. In the center stood a pristine black upright electric piano, its sleek lines and the ivory keys reflecting a soft glow under the lights. Anya's steps froze instantly, her eyes fixated on the instrument, her breath held captive. Memories of her grand piano, shattered by the cruel commander, flooded back, her only companion painstakingly repaired from the debris. Tears welled up unbidden, blurring her vision. This was once a small storage room, which I have cleared out. Chun Mo's voice broke the silence. The soundproofing is quite good. From now on, this will be your dedicated studio. He gestured toward the piano. The equipment is limited. You can only use this for now. Once we find something better, we will upgrade for you. Anya abruptly lifted her gaze, tear-filled eyes meeting Chun Mo's. She wanted to express her gratitude but found her throat constricted, unable to utter a single word. Your music is invaluable, Chun Mo added, his gaze steady upon her. In this forsaken place, music is as essential as food. It reminds people that they are still human. With that, he turned and exited, leaving Anya alone in the space. Anya remained rooted to the spot, lost in thought for a long while. Slowly, she approached the electric piano, extending her trembling hand to lightly caress the cool keys. She carefully placed her cherished music sheets on the stand and sat down, taking a deep breath. As her fingertips first touched the keys, an indescribable warmth, akin to an electric current, coursed through her, spreading throughout her entire being. A clear note rang out, resonating in the quiet room, followed by a cascade of gentle melodies, flowing like a serene stream from her fingertips. This melody is no longer the melancholic, oppressive tune she once played in the confines of Blackstone Prison, one that soothed despair with its sorrow. This time, the music resonates with the essence of rebirth, brimming with gratitude and the purest hope for the future. The notes weave through the cracks of the door, meandering down the lengthy corridor, reaching every corner of the Arkansas Chapter 72, the Horn of Hope within the bridge. Mia and Su Qing were embroiled in a heated debate over the distribution of spoils from Blackstone Prison. Why should all the captured Punisher mechs be allocated to that tech fanatic, Chinya, for disassembly and study? They ought to reserve 2 for me. I could transform them into incredibly stylish close combat variants. The technical data for the mech production line is what truly matters. Su Qing countered, arguing that once fully analyzed, we could produce more advanced models ourselves instead of squandering time on obsolete relics. As their argument raged on, the gentle notes of the piano drifted in. Mia's clamorous voice fell silent. She perked up, inhaling deeply as if the music bore a flavor. Is that the tune played by that little pianist? A curious expression crossed her face. It was impressive how someone locked away in a small dark room could play with such vigor. Su Qing remained quiet. Yet the tension in her brow, a result of prolonged, strenuous work, relaxed involuntarily at the sound of the music. The melody possessed a peculiar enchantment that soothed the furrows of the heart. Similar transformations were occurring throughout the Arkansas exhausted combatants, just finished with their training. Leaned back in the cafeteria chairs, feeling their fatigue dissipate as they listened to the music that seemed to come from nowhere. Survivors, recently rescued and still grappling with feelings of confusion and fear for the future, found solace in the hopeful melody echoing from their temporary quarters, slowly melting the ice of unease within them. Many wore a long-lost serene smile as they drifted into slumber. Chun Imo stood at the entrance of the central control room, where Long Yu was assisting Lin Wan in deciphering the vast amounts of data downloaded from Blackstone Prison. He too heard the music. From the melody, he discerned a joy akin to breaking free from a cocoon and a tranquility of finding a home. This girl, who could still play the notes of hope amidst despair, perhaps held a value greater than he had ever imagined. Suddenly, a loud exclamation shattered the tranquility. Mia rushed to Chinimo, her face brimming with the excitement of a brilliant idea. Boss, such beautiful music. Leaving that girl to play alone in the dark room is a waste. She pointed towards the entertainment hall. We must bring her out for a little stroll. Let us hold a mini concert for everyone. Isn't that far more thrilling than watching those tired old movies? Before Chinimo could respond, Mia dashed towards Anya's exclusive creative studio. A few minutes later, Anya was half pushed, half dragged into the entertainment hall. She gazed at the dozens, even hundreds, of curious and expectant eyes below, her palms sweating nervously. In Blackstone Prison, she played for survival, her only audience the loathsome officers. Here, she would perform for family for the very first time. Don't be afraid, Mia encouraged from behind, like a manager boosting her confidence. Show them what you can do. Let them experience truly captivating music. Anya took a deep breath, approached the temporarily relocated electric piano in the center of the hall, and sat down. As her fingers touched the keys, all her tension and anxiety vanished in an instant. In her world, only the music remained. The melody resonated once more. This time, it was no longer a distant, muffled tune behind walls. Each note struck clearly and directly at the hearts of everyone present. The music began gently, like the first rays of morning sunlight, dispelling the gloom within. It expressed the joy of breaking free from shackles and gratitude for new life. Below, the recently rescued survivors felt a profound connection, many covering their mouths as silent tears streamed down their faces. Yet these tears were not born of pain, but of profound emotion. Then, the melody shifted, becoming lively and uplifting, as if painting a vibrant picture of life aboard the Arkansas Green Gardens, clean dormitories, warm lights, and the smiles of comrades. The combatants, usually consumed by training and battle, found their lips curling upwards involuntarily. They envisioned the beauty of all they had fought to protect. Finally, the music swelled into a grand and powerful crescendo. It transcended mere emotional expression, transforming into a mighty force that surged into the bodies of everyone present. A combatant nursing a shoulder injury from intense training was astonished to discover that the pain had significantly lessened under the influence of the music. An engineer, mentally fatigued from continuous data analysis, felt his muddled thoughts clear as if washed by a pure spring. Everyone's spirits soared to an unprecedented peak of exhilaration and joy. They felt invigorated, as if they could charge out at that moment and take down another enemy battalion. Anya was entirely immersed in her performance, her fingertips dancing over the keys, her dark hair swaying with the rhythm of her body. She seemed to emanate a faint, sacred glow. At that very moment, the familiar yet cold sound of a system notification abruptly exploded in Chun Mo's mind. Ding! Detected ultra-rare psychic resonance pilot, Anya. Her music can resonate with the collective subconscious of humanity, awakening the deepest spiritual powers. Exclusive function module, Horn of Hope, has been unlocked. Chen Mo's heart raced. Before him appeared the detailed introduction of the Horn of Hope. Horn of Hope, special auxiliary function module. Effect 1, elevated morale. When Anya performs, the morale of all ARC personnel will remain high, with a 200 increase in resistance to negative emotions. Effect 2, sacred hymn. Within the range of the music, all members will experience a 50 increase in stamina and energy recovery speed, with accelerated healing of minor injuries. Effect 3, production concerto. The efficiency of all production, research, and maintenance tasks aboard the ARC will increase by 20. As he absorbed these extraordinary auxiliary effects, Chen Mo's mind momentarily blanked. He had always focused the ARC's upgrades on hard powers such as weaponry, armor, and propulsion. This was the first time he realized that soft power, in the system's assessment, possessed such terrifying and quantifiable value. Music could transform into an all-encompassing superpower. Chen Mo glanced at the girl on stage, lost in her world and seemingly glowing. Then at the crew below, entranced and rejuvenated. Suddenly, he understood. A true home requires more than just sturdy fortifications and sharp weaponry. It necessitates a soul, named Hope, that can unite everyone together. Anya's music was the initial horn that ignited this soul. Chapter 73. The Enigma of Ether. As Anya's final note reverberated through the air, an eerie silence enveloped the entertainment hall. The audience, still entranced by the grandeur and power of the melody, found themselves ensnared in its embrace. A long-forgotten flame, the essence of being alive, ignited within them. Moments later, thunderous applause and cheers erupted, shaking the very rafters of the Arkansas. Goodness. My skull feels as if it's about to burst, exclaimed a combatant, his enthusiasm so exaggerated that he felt capable of running a 10-kilometer course right then and there. Mom, that Big Sister's concert is radiant. A child pointed at the blushing Anya on stage, his innocent voice ringing out. As Chen Mo surveyed the fervent scene before him, he recalled the extraordinary attributes of the Horn of Hope in his mind, realizing he had just pieced together a crucial fragment of the puzzle known as awareness. A fortress requires both steel and roses. War necessitates not only weapons, but also battle hymns. Just as he prepared to approach Anya, the personal terminal on his wrist vibrated urgently. It's Lin Wan. Boss, something significant has occurred. You should come immediately. Her voice quivered with an uncontrollable excitement, laced with a hint of awe she herself was unaware of. Chen Mo's expression sharpened instantly. He gestured to Mia and Su Qing, signaling them to maintain order, before swiftly turning and striding toward the central control room. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of the ARC, within the central control chamber, a silent war reached its critical juncture. The air was thick with the saccharine aroma of energy drinks and the drone of cooling fans. Lin Wan's eyes were bloodshot, yet her spirit soared to unprecedented heights. Her hands moved like phantoms, frantically manipulating the virtual screens before her. Opposite her, Long Yu appeared pale, her eyes closed as she synchronized her consciousness with the Valkyrie. In her mind, the labyrinthine data architecture of the Genesis Corporation unfolded. This Blackwall Protocol's encryption level is astronomical, utilizing over 30 algorithmic models. With key transitions occurring every second, Lin Wan gritted her teeth. The Valkyrie is exerting 80% of its computational power to force a breach, yet progress remains nearly stagnant. This is akin to smashing against a tortoise's shell. Before them, a colossal holographic projection displayed an immense data conglomerate, ensconced in a swirling, dark red light. This was the core database they had seized from the Blackstone prison. They had deciphered over 99% of the outer data, including weapon schematics, personnel lists, and resource allocations. Yet, the core data block remained an unyielding iron nut. This is the encrypted protocol directly under the governor's purview. Long Yu opened her eyes, her tone icy and grave. It is referred to as the box of the gods within Genesis. Theoretically, no one and no device, aside from the governor himself, can unlock it from the outside. Theoretically? Lin once seized upon the term, pondering the existence of a non-theoretical solution. There is one. Long Yu's gaze drifted, as if recalling an exceedingly distant memory. When I ascended to the punishment level ace, I underwent a profound imprint of authority. My mentor, Night Crow, once mentioned that the box of the gods is not flawless. To maintain the vitality of its internal data, it undergoes a self-checking silence period of 0.03 seconds every 168 hours for remote calibration with the Genesis main server. During that fleeting moment, a theoretical vulnerability appears in its defenses. Lin Wan's eyes sparkled with the brilliance of 2,000-watt bulbs. A silence period? How often does it occur? When is the next one? I do not know. Long Yu shook her head. This is the highest secret of Genesis. I only know it exists. Moreover, we do not possess the calibration key. Even if we capture that instant, it will suffice. Lin Wan's excitement surged as she slammed her hand on the table. I do not require the key. I only need a flaw. A flaw lasting 0.03 seconds is all I need. Valkyrie, commence exhaustive timing simulations immediately. Retrieve all past energy fluctuation records of the box of the gods and identify its rhythmic patterns. This was nothing short of a fantastical notion. Yet for the Ark, empowered by the Valkyrie, nothing was deemed impossible. A torrent of data cascaded across the screens, the seconds ticking away. As Chun Mo pushed open the door to the control room, he witnessed a scene unfolding before him. The holographic projection, representing the box of the gods, flickered with an eerie frequency. Now, move. Lin Wan screamed. It is now? Echoed Long Yu simultaneously. The Valkyrie's calm, synthesized voice resonated throughout the control room. Silent window captured. Hive-style cracking commands have been injected. On the screen, a torrent of blue data resembling a swarm of bees surged forward, precisely and fiercely crashing into that fleeting moment of flicker. A resounding crack reverberated, akin to a sound emanating from the depths of the soul. The indestructible dark red barrier shattered like glass, instantly fracturing and collapsing into a cascade of data fragments. What lay within was a singular, unadorned file. Its name was simple yet profound, Ether. What is this? It sounds like a magical incantation, Lin Wan remarked, her skepticism evident as she unhesitatingly clicked to open it. The moment the file was unveiled, no data charts or complex formulas emerged, only a series of dated research logs resembling a diary. Observation Log 07. Subject Cerberus underwent a transformative change in its biological field after the injection of 001 units of ether aerosol. We observed that its claws could tear through local space. No, I am not insane. It is space itself. Observation Log 23. Breakthrough in energy output testing. The theoretical peak of a standard nuclear fusion reactor was surpassed by 2 orders of magnitude under the catalysis of ether. It defies all known thermodynamic laws. It is not merely releasing energy, it is creating energy. Observation Log 41. Major discovery. Ether seems capable of directly interfering with the laws of physics. During an inadvertent energy leak, the gravitational constant within the experimental area experienced a 10% reduction for 3 seconds. This may explain the irrational maneuverability of punishment-level constructs. The control room fell into a profound silence. Lin Wan and Long Yu stared blankly at the text on the screen, their minds devoid of thought. Particularly Long Yu, whose body trembled uncontrollably. She finally understood why her vehicle, the Vermilion Bird, could execute those movements that defied aerodynamics, akin to teleportation. It was not her skill. It was the power of ether. With great difficulty, Lin Wan swallowed hard, turning to Chun Mo, who had somehow appeared behind them. It seems we have stumbled upon something monumental. Chun Mo remained silent, his gaze fixed intently on the words on the screen, his pupils narrowing to the most perilous of pinpoints. Ether, a term previously unknown to him, struck like a bolt of lightning, linking all the clues he had regarding the Sky Shield Corporation. The governor's mad scheme to restart the Genesis super server and the unprecedented cutting-edge technology were all rooted here. The Genesis might not even be a server at all. It was the ultimate machine designed to control and even create the ether. The Sky Shield Corporation was merely a thief, pilfering the divine spark. His fingers unconsciously tapped lightly on the console, producing a rhythmic sound. After a considerable time, he slowly lifted his gaze, scanning the entire control room with an air of calm, yet undeniable determination. Valkyrie, I am here, Commander. Cross-reference all seized data and abandon all other targets. Use your full computational power to uncover everything related to the ether, experimental sites, researchers, transport routes. Leave no stone unturned. The command was issued, and Valkyrie's voice resonated without delay. Command received. Initiating comprehensive data cross-referencing for target, ether. Chapter 74. Target, Phantom Ship. Command received. Initiating comprehensive data cross-referencing for target, ether. Valkyrie's composed synthetic voice seemed to press the ignition button for the impending storm. The lights in the control room dimmed instantly, and all computational resources were frantically drawn toward the core that represented the pinnacle of the Ark's processing power. Before Lin Wan, dozens of virtual screens displayed data streams moving at a speed too rapid for the naked eye to comprehend, coalescing into torrents of blue data waterfalls. What a thrill! This feels like playing Tetris on the Tianhe 2 supercomputer. Overkill! Lin Wan exclaimed, her face flushed with excitement. as her fingers danced across the screens, creating a blur of motion in perfect synchronization with Valkyrie's search operations. Opposite her, Long Yu once again closed her eyes. Her consciousness was deeply linked with Valkyrie. No longer merely providing intelligence, she transformed every footprint and authorization mark she had left within the Sky Shield's internal network into keys, guiding Valkyrie through the vast, chaotic, and trap-laden data labyrinth. It was akin to panning for gold in a mountain of electronic refuse. Though the data from Blackstone Prison had been completely downloaded, much of it was destructively encrypted or simply incoherent garbage data. Countless traps and dead loops, like tentacles in a swamp, slowed the retrieval process. Warning: triggered data trap no. 3. Data black hole protocol activated, consuming the retrieval path. Identified the Sky Shield's anti-tracking logic virus, codename Scavenger, formatting and clearing the retrieval logs. Valkyrie continuously reported the dangers encountered. Ignore it. Implement a scorched earth strategy. Isolate and obliterate that contaminated data zone. Long Yu's forehead glistened with beads of sweat. Her voice resolute and cold. I recall the Scavenger's activation logic. It prioritizes clearing the clearest logs. We will do the opposite. Advance with 32 obfuscation paths and sync to overload and crash it. Under the guidance of Long Yu, the former insider, Valkyrie surged through the network abyss of the Sky Shield like a master hacker. As time passed, Chinemo quietly stood behind the two, observing their collaboration as they overcame challenge after challenge. He understood well what the discovery of the ether signified. It completely overturned the table of the wasteland. Past battles, whether against mutants or in exterminating other survivor factions, had adhered to conventional warfare logic. However, the emergence of the ether elevated the dimensions of this game from the physical to the metaphysical, tearing through space, creating energy from nothing, and interfering with physical laws. This was no longer technology, it was a miracle. The Sky Shield Corporation and that deranged governor had evidently taken the perilous first step on the path to divinity. He must catch up, even surpass him. And discovering more ether was the only shortcut. At that moment, Valkyrie's consistently calm voice wavered for the first time with a hint of fluctuation. Report. Commander, an independent data packet has been discovered at the bottom of the garbage database in Sector 7, severely damaged and repeatedly overwritten. File codename, Prometheus Fire. After a 97-fragment restoration, its content is confirmed to be a top-secret shipping log. The log contains high-frequency keywords: ether, experimental reactor, emergency transfer, energy leak. Everyone's hearts raced at that moment. Coordinates. Lin 1 asked sharply. Coordinate data is 99. 9 missing. Valkyrie responded calmly, but the log retains the starting point, scheduled cruising speed, and the relative angles of 3 observed stars at the last signal transmission. Upon hearing this, Lin 1's eyes dimmed, realizing the futility. This is akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. The starry sky of the wasteland is entirely different from pre-war times. The dust concentration in the atmosphere will cause massive errors in astronomical observations. No, Chinemo, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke. His gaze fell upon the 3 faint star coordinates, illuminated with an understanding light. Valkyrie, he commanded solemnly, retrieve the ARC's astronomical database and perform a fuzzy match with the observational data from this log. Do not forget, we have a reference point. Reference point? Lin 1 was momentarily taken aback. Our own position, Chinemo replied with a slight smile. Just moments ago, their location and the observational point of this log aligned perfectly to witness the same segment of the night sky. Lin 1's eyes widened in realization. Of course, as long as we use our current real-time observational data as a baseline, we can deduce the precise location of that coordinate. Boss, are you running at overclock speed? No further commands were necessary. Valkyrie's computational power began to operate at a frenzied pace. In the center of the control room, the colossal 3-dimensional map of the wasteland materialized once more. Countless pale blue lines crisscrossed the map, conducting terrifying exhaustive simulations based on stellar positions, time, cruising speed, and a plethora of data. On the map, potential red dots flickered to life, only to be eliminated in the next moment, fading away. Ultimately, when the last data chain closed, only a single coordinate remained, pulsating with a blinding, blood-red light that signified extreme danger. That area lay within a region marked as a forbidden sea on all navigational charts. Among the survivors of the wasteland, it was known as the Leviathan's Graveyard. Legends spoke of ships that neared that sea being dragged into the abyss by an unseen hand, leaving no trace behind. At the center of that deathly sea, a clear text label slowly emerged. Third line experimental platform codename. Phantom ship. Long Yu gazed at the name, her expression turning gravely serious. I remember now. There were high-level sealed records regarding it within Sky Shield. It is not a fixed drilling platform, but a mobile maritime fortress with independent navigation capabilities. During an extreme pressure test of the ethereal reactor, communication with headquarters was abruptly severed. The final encrypted message received contained merely 3 words. What are those 3 words? Chen Mo inquired. It has awakened. The control room fell into a profound silence. Lin Wan gazed at the last few lines of the research log displayed on the screen, swallowing hard. Observation log 52. The ether concentration of the reactor has surpassed the critical threshold. We seem to have created an energy entity with self-awareness. It is learning. It is evolving. It is watching us. Observation log 53. Content completely corrupted. God, save us. An energy entity with self-awareness. An uncontrollable offshore fortress that may have come to life. A deathly sea that devours all. All clues converge towards a chilling truth. Boss, this place isn't merely a matter of life and death. It's a certainty of demise. Lin Wan's voice trembled, yet she added, but if successful, a complete ether reactor. Our homestead might no longer be just a ship. It could become the homestead starship. We could maneuver the Celestial Shield's aircraft carriers like bumper cars. Enormous risks, and rewards vast enough to drive anyone to madness. All eyes turned towards Chen Mo. He did not respond immediately, instead quietly observing the pulsating red dot on the map, akin to a demonic heart. After a moment, he slowly raised his head, his gaze sweeping over the eager Lin Wan and the complex expression of Long Yu. His voice, calm yet resolute, carried a definitive weight. Risk and reward have always been proportional. He turned towards the bridge, activating the crew communications. Notify everyone to conclude their rest. The homestead will immediately alter its course. The immense steel fortress reverberated with a deep rumble. The homestead's navigation posture began to make minute adjustments. On the vast holographic map within the control room, a new golden beam, representing the navigation route, extended from their current position like a released arrow, straight towards the deathly sea known as Leviathan. Chen Mo regarded the final destination, his voice low yet distinctly clear, resonating in the ears of everyone in the control room. Ghost ship, I shall see whether you conceal treasures or truly harbor phantoms. Chapter 75. The Governor's Fury. The headquarters of Celestial Shield Corporation is situated atop the colossal ruins of a city at the center of continental plates. It bears no name, only a code name, the Nexus. Unlike any survivor outpost on the wasteland, it lacks towering walls and exposed turrets. A gigantic pyramid made entirely of an enigmatic black alloy rises like a sword piercing the heavens, its surface as smooth as a mirror, devoid of windows. Adorned only with countless faint blue energy lines that flow across its surface, outlining a geometric beauty that is both cold and sacred, transcending time. At the apex of the pyramid lies the governor's office. The room is disquietingly spacious, containing only a floating desk made of pure light at its center. The walls are lined with one-way observation mirrors, providing a view of the headquarters below, composed of numerous small buildings and passages resembling a meticulously integrated circuit. A man clad in a black uniform is prostrate on the cold floor, trembling like a leaf in autumn's gust. He dares not raise his gaze, nor breathe too audibly. The room is unlit, the sole source of illumination emanating from behind the desk, where a shadowy, indistinct figure sits. This is the governor. No one has ever seen his true visage, nor even determined his gender. He is a symbol, an embodiment of absolute will commanding the vast war machine of the Celestial Shield Corporation. Speak. A processed electronic voice, devoid of emotion, echoed in the empty chamber. Just a single word caused the man on the floor to shudder violently. Report. The Eastern Front base at Blackstone Prison lost contact 7 hours ago. His voice, laced with extreme terror, became sharp and hoarse. 3 hours ago, satellite imagery confirmed that 80% of the prison's main structure has been destroyed, with all external defenses obliterated. Upon finishing, he buried his head firmly into the floor, bracing for the anticipated wrath. However, the office descended into a dead silence. No roaring, no inquiries. This silence was far more terrifying than any fury. The man on the ground felt his heart racing, as cold sweat soaked his back. After a long pause, the governor's voice resonated once more, still as flat, as if discussing the weather. Troop deployment. A fully equipped Punisher mech squad, 520 regular armed soldiers. And the ace, Long Yu. The man struggled to utter the final name. Total annihilation? According to thermal residue and life signal analysis, yes, Governor. No survivors. The office fell silent again. Suddenly, a faint crack echoed. The man caught a glimpse of the governor's gloved hand slowly rising, gently crushing a rotating model of a galaxy made of pure energy. The model disintegrated into shimmering particles, dissipating into the air. Interesting. The governor articulated, a frontline prison, along with one of my punishers, has been erased without a trace. When did such power emerge on the wasteland? A trace of barely perceptible curiosity laced his voice. According to the fragmented combat footage transmitted from Blackstone Prison, the attackers were massive land fortresses previously unrecorded. Land fortresses? The governor's tone seemed to waver slightly. Yes. It appears to possess some form of spatial jumping capability. As those words left his lips, the air in the office felt as if it had been instantaneously siphoned away. The governor's indistinct form leaned forward for the first time. An invisible, tsunami-like pressure enveloped the entire room. The man on the ground stifled a groan, feeling as though his bones were protesting, nearly losing consciousness. Spatial jumping? The governor repeated the term deliberately, imbued with a cold, inquisitive undertone. Is it an application of ether? No, the energy of ether is still in the experimental stage. Such stable macroscopic application is implausible. Could it be a relic of the old era? He ceased to regard the man, who was on the verge of asphyxiation, lost instead in contemplation. He was indifferent to the fall of Blackstone Prison. A frontline base could be rebuilt tenfold at any moment. The loss of Long Yu held no weight for him either, a mere blade. He could forge a sharper one at will. What mattered to him was something else. The database of Blackstone Prison. He suddenly spoke. Was it completely downloaded? The man summoned his last vestiges of strength to respond. Yes. Is that so? The governor slowly leaned back in his chair, the suffocating pressure dissipating instantly. Then it is no wonder. His voice returned to a monotone, and upon glimpsing the secrets of the ether, he could not restrain himself from yearning to touch that power which was not his own. He raised his hand and delicately pointed into the void. A vast holographic map of desolate land, marked with crimson danger zones, unfurled before him. His finger glided slowly across the map, ultimately resting with precision upon the area known as Leviathan, the Sea of Death. A covetous seeker who had mastered the art of spatial leaps and glimpsed the secrets of the ether, his next target was glaringly obvious. The governor's voice carried a hint of playful malice, reminiscent of a cat toying with a mouse. Night Raven, he whispered. A shadow, dark as a wraith, appeared without warning within the office's gloom. The figure was clad in black uniform, his visage obscured by a raven mask that covered half his face. He knelt upon one knee, his posture impeccably textbook. Governor, he rasped, his voice akin to the caw of a raven. It seems your student has found a new master. It is my oversight. Night Raven bowed his head deeper. This is not your fault. The governor waved dismissively. Go, take your punishment fleet. Set a trap at the ghost ship. I do not wish to see that intriguing land fortress destroyed. I have a keen interest in it. I require but one thing. Retrieve the artifact related to spatial leaps from his vessel. As you command. Night Raven's figure melded back into the shadows and vanished. Simultaneously, at the base of the pyramid structure, 3 concealed hangar doors slid open silently. 3 small aerial warships, entirely black and shaped like soaring falcons, glided forth without a sound. Their hulls were cloaked in a special coating that absorbed radar waves, and their engines emitted no roar. Only a ghostly blue particle streamed from their aft to testify to their existence. This was the governor's elite guard, the punishment fleet. In the next moment, the 3 warships accelerated instantaneously, transforming into 3 streaks of black light that shot into the clouds, racing towards the eastern Sea of Death. Chapter 76. The Assault of the Sand Wolves in stark contrast to the cold, austere atmosphere of the headquarters of the Heavenly Shield. On the far side of the continental plate, the arid sands and desolate expanse formed a singular hue. This was the territory of the Scavengers Alliance, a chaotic yet vibrantly primal confederation of countless nomadic tribes. Here, laws and rules were non-existent. The only truth was that the mightier fist prevailed, and the louder roar of the engine commanded respect. At this moment, in a camp constructed from the bones of colossal beasts and shipping containers deep within the desert, the scent of roasting meat mingled with the acrid odor of low-quality diesel. This was the stronghold of the most elite and frenzied tribe of the Scavengers Alliance, the Sand Wolves. In the center of the camp, upon a massive throne crafted from the polished skull of a mutated mammoth, sat a burly man, bare-chested and covered in grotesque scars, as he voraciously sliced into a sizzling, oil-dripping leg of a giant lizard with a rusty dagger. He was the chieftain of the Sand Wolves, a man revered by countless wasteland drifters as the Sand Wolf King. His subordinates gathered around the campfire, boasting loudly and gambling, the air thick with the mingling scents of sweat, alcohol, and raw hormones. King, the rat has brought you something good, shouted a one-eyed henchman, dragging a scrawny man, resembling a monkey, and throwing him at the feet of the Sand Wolf King. The man, known as the Rat, was an information dealer, trembling with fear and forcing an expression on his face that was more grotesque than sorrow. I have exclusive intel that could make you a fortune. The Sandwolf King paused his gnawing and grabbed the rat by his hair, lifting him to eye level, revealing a grin that showcased his yellowed, beast-like teeth. Oh, pray tell, if you dare deceive me with falsehoods, I shall string you up and roast you like the meat you are. I wouldn't he dare. The rat nearly wet himself, spilling every detail he knew in a rush. In the eastern sea of death, there exists a maritime platform codenamed Ghost Ship. It harbors a treasure called Ether. Ether? The Sandwolf King's brow furrowed. The term was too profound for him. I know not what that is. The rat hastily clarified. But I overheard an escaping technician from the Heavenly Shield saying it is energy. The ultimate energy that can keep machines running forever. That bunch in white coats has dispatched their finest fleet, racing towards it. Energy that can power machines indefinitely? The Sandwolf King's breath grew heavy. He did not comprehend the laws of physics or technology, but he understood that fuel was lifeblood in the wasteland. His war vehicle fleet consumed enough diesel daily to bankrupt a small settlement. If he possessed a perpetual motion machine, he could go wherever he pleased, crush whoever he desired, while the pretentious Heavenly Shield would be left choking on his dust. Suddenly, the Sandwolf King erupted in a deafening roar of laughter, smashing the leg bone he held onto the ground with such force that it shattered into fragments. Excellent. What a treasure Ether is. Greed and madness ignited within his eyes. The Heavenly Shield's pretentious fools think they can hoard it all? Not a chance. He sprang from his throne, raising his arms. Listen up. His voice thundered, drowning out the cacophony of the camp. All members of the Sandwolves halted their activities, their fervent gazes fixating upon their king. I have discovered a monumental treasure, one that can allow our vehicles to race to the end of the world. With the coarsest yet most direct language, the Sandwolf King incited his followers' desires. Those cowards from the Heavenly Shield have set their sights on that treasure. What shall we do? Seize it. Crush the Heavenly Shield. The treasure is ours. A chorus of bloodthirsty roars erupted from the camp. Well said. The Sandwolf King nodded approvingly, kicking the rat aside before striding towards his personal war machine. It was a monstrous beast, a heavily modified mining truck resembling a mobile fortress. The front was fitted with a massive ram crafted from the skull of a mutated beast, and the body was covered in a lattice of steel spikes and armored plating. On the roof, a twin-barrel rapid-fire cannon, salvaged from a warship, was mounted. Everyone, fill the fuel tanks and bring the weapons, he commanded. Let us deliver a grand gift to those sweethearts at the Heavenly Shield. A roar of approval surged through the Sandwolves' camp, transforming it into a war machine awakened. The roar of countless engines erupted, black smoke billowed skyward, staining the heavens with ominous hues. Wildly styled, fearsome desert war vehicles burst forth from their lairs, school buses adorned with graffiti and topped with machine gun nests. Heavily modified off-road vehicles equipped with massive drills, and numerous motorcycles draped in chains and skulls, charging forth like rabid dogs. A legion forged from steel, flame, and fury assembled in mere minutes, ready for the inevitable clash. The Sandwolf King stood atop his colossal war beast, gazing down at the torrent of steel below. He spread his arms wide, welcoming the gusting hot winds, and let out a roar that echoed across the Gobi Desert. Come on, my minions. Stay close. Fortune favors the bold. Charge. At his command, the massive desert convoy, capable of raising any medium-sized survivor fortress, surged forth like a tsunami of yellow sand, stirring up clouds of dust as it advanced relentlessly towards the eastern expanse of the Sea of Death. Chapter 77. The Forbidden Zone. The air was torn apart, creating an unsightly gash. The enormous hull of the Ark was not smoothly gliding out, but rather violently expelled from the distorted light. The violent tremors caused everyone on the bridge to stumble. Damn it, Yao Wang, you're driving too recklessly this time, Mia complained. Her voice caught in her throat as she caught sight of the scene outside the viewport. There was neither land nor sky in view. What met the eye was an enraged, black ocean. The heavens were shrouded by clouds as heavy as lead, and pale lightning danced chaotically within the clouds, casting an eerie glow upon the surface of the sea. A frigid wind swept in, carrying the acrid scent of the sea, howling like a banshee. Towering waves surged like mountains, rising and crashing down with ferocity. In the midst of the turbulent lightning and monstrous waves stood a vast, rust-streaked steel platform. This was their target. The Ghost Ship. It resembled a steel tomb forgotten by the world, enduring the relentless battering of the waves, exuding an aura of death and decay. We've arrived. Chunmo's voice shattered the silence on the bridge. However, as soon as he spoke, the Valkyrie's calm synthetic voice was interrupted by a noticeable, intermittent static. Warning, high-intensity unknown energy field detected, contaminating all detection units. Valkyrie. Long Yu's expression changed drastically as she attempted to stabilize the core through mental links. Boss. Something terrible has happened. Lin Wan's scream echoed almost simultaneously, her face etched with terror and disbelief. The energy readings in this damned place have gone off the charts. No, there are no readings. My sensors are burning out one by one. This energy, it's alive. It's attempting to infiltrate our systems. ZZZZT. As if to validate her words. The lights on the entire bridge began to flicker erratically, while piercing alarms blared unexpectedly in every corner, only to fall silent the next moment, plunging them into a suffocating stillness. What the hell is going on? Why do I feel like there are hundreds of mosquitoes throwing a party in my head? Mia groaned in agony, clutching her head, her complexion pale. It wasn't just her. Everyone on the bridge felt a strong sense of irritation and malevolence, emanating from the realm of the mind. It felt as though someone was scraping their nerves with a rusty file. It's the radiation from the ether. Long Yu's jaw trembled as she fought against the mental pollution. The reactor on the platform is in an unstable activation state. Boom. A massive bolt of lightning split the sky, briefly illuminating the entire sea. In that instant, Su Qing's pupils constricted as she pointed out the viewport, her voice trembling. What is that beneath the surface? Everyone turned to where she pointed. In the brief moment of transparency caused by the lightning, a colossal shadow, indescribably vast, slowly rose from beneath the dark waters. The outline of the shadow was indistinct, but even the mere tip of the iceberg it revealed dwarfed the Arkansas. Then, a tentacle covered in pale bone armor, adorned with barbs and suckers, erupted from the water, striking towards the Ark with tremendous force. Dodge! Su Qing instinctively shouted. Yet the Ark's heavy hull could hardly react in time. Alert! Right side armor has been struck. Damage assessment inconclusive. Energy shield experiencing logical disruption. The Valkyrie's voice was now a broken mess. The violent impact caused the entire fortress to tilt, and more frantically flashing alarms lit up the bridge, resembling a doomsday disco. But that was not the end. More shadows, drawn by the unstable ether energy on the platform, emerged from all directions. One tentacle, 2. 10. Countless grotesque appendages burst forth from the ocean, like a writhing forest of death extending from the depths of hell, surrounding the Arkansas externally. There was a raging storm and deep-sea behemoths lured by the energy. Internally, the system was about to collapse under energy pollution, and the crew was being eroded mentally. The Ark, this once invincible land dominator, found itself ensnared in an unprecedented predicament within a mere minute of reaching its destination. Boss, we're about to become a tin can. If we don't do something soon, these tentacled monsters will drag us down to the depths for a feast. Mia shouted anxiously. All systems are failing. We must evacuate this energy field immediately. Lin Wan's voice was tinged with panic. Evacuate. Chun Mo's gaze swept over the chaotic black ocean outside. Already churned into a boiling cauldron by the monstrous beasts, his expression as cold as an abyss. Where do we retreat to? Before these behemoths? The Ark is like a turtle that has wandered into a crocodile pit. Once exposed on the surface, it will be torn to shreds in an instant. Amid the chaos, Chen Mo remained the only one composed. His mind raced at an unprecedented speed, analyzing the dire situation. The surface was a death zone. The only glimmer of survival did not lie above or behind, but beneath their feet. Valkyrie, Chen Mo's voice, though quiet, acted as a stabilizing force, instantly quelling the clamor and panic within the bridge. Commander, shut down all non-essential systems and switch to deep-sea submersible mode. His orders were clear and decisive, severing all energy interaction with the outside and opting for a physical descent. Target, directly below the platform, 500 meters deep. Execute silent submersion. This command left everyone momentarily stunned. Submerge? Submerging a land fortress? Yet no one dared to question him. Receiving orders, the Valkyrie, summoning its last reserves of strength, executed Chun Mo's command. The external lights of the Ark extinguished in an instant. The roar of the engines ceased. The colossal fortress, like a fallen giant, relinquished all resistance. The frenzied tentacles seemed to lose their target, their attacks slowing down. Then, the ballast hatch at the bottom of the Ark was forcibly opened, and icy seawater surged in. The heavy hull began to sink slowly. The tumultuous lightning and towering waves outside were swiftly left above, replaced by pure, all-consuming darkness and silence. The Ark, this steel behemoth, quietly descended into the unknown abyss where even light could not reach. Chapter 78. Watching the Tigers fight, the Ark was sinking. Without the roar of engines, the bellow of weapons, or even the life-sustaining devices maintaining their cycles, Everything had entered a state of minimal power and silence. The colossal steel behemoth now resembled a whale carcass sinking into the abyss, solemn and tragic, plummeting toward a chasm where even light could not reach. Outside the porthole lay an expanse of pure, all-consuming darkness. The tumultuous lightning and towering waves above the surface were muffled by the weight of the ocean, leaving only distant, indistinct glimmers akin to dying fireflies. As the depth increased, the mental pollution that had haunted everyone's minds, scraping at their nerves like a rasp, began to miraculously subside. "Hey, I'm alive," Mia exhaled a long breath, massaging her throbbing temples as she collapsed into her chair. That sensation had been utterly overwhelming. She nearly believed that ghostly voice would grant her immediate absolution. "We have entered a zone of weak energy radiation decay." Lin Wan's voice remained somewhat feeble. Yet her gaze was fixed on the screen where parameters gradually returned to normal, her expression a mix of relief and gratitude. "Boss, your strategy of cutting off the source is truly brilliant. Who would have thought that the most dangerous place could be the safest?" Chun Mo remained silent. Standing quietly at the captain's station, his eyes locked onto the main screen. It no longer displayed optical images, but rather a green three-dimensional grid composed of sonar signals and faint energy fluctuations. This was the homeworld's eyes and ears in the deep sea. "Valkyrie, report status. Silent mode operational." The Valkyrie's voice still crackled with electrical noise, but had regained basic logic. All non-essential systems were in hibernation. Current physical depth, 483 meters. Expected arrival in target area in 30 seconds. The homeward hovered silently, like a stone cast into a deep pool, 500 meters beneath the ghost ship platform in the dark abyss. This was a true zone of death, an absolute depth seldom visited even by the colossal sea creatures drawn by energy. At that moment, the world seemed to stand still. Inside the bridge, only the suppressed breaths of the crew could be heard. Time ticked away, just as Mia began to grow impatient, wanting to inquire about something. 3 rapidly moving red dots suddenly appeared on the screen, representing the sea level. They emerged from the western clouds, hovering above the storm-tossed waters with an eerily stable demeanor. "Here they come." Long Yu's voice was cold and grave. Without further introduction, everyone deduced the identity of those 3 light points from their posture and energy responses. 3 sleek, pitch-black aerial warships, resembling outstretched falcons, disregarded the violent winds below, coldly overlooking the ghost ship swaying in the storm. "The Judgment Fleet. TSK, their entrance is quite impressive," Mia remarked, a hint of annoyance lacing her tone. However, their showy demeanor did not last beyond a minute. "Report. The eastern sea level has detected large-scale engine heat sources approaching at high speed." Lin Wan's voice suddenly rose. On the other end of the screen, a dense cluster of yellow light points, representing chaos and wildness, surged forth like a tsunami of yellow sand from the horizon. It was a motley fleet known as the Mad Max of the seas, composed of modified giant mining trucks with fearsome ramming prows serving as mobile fortresses. Assault boats fashioned from school buses equipped with dual-mounted machine guns, and numerous suicide speedboats cobbled together from motorcycles and floats, circling around the main warship like hyenas. Each vessel bore flags adorned with grinning wolf heads. How did the Sandwolf tribe end up here? Long Yu's brow furrowed tightly. "What else? They came drawn by the scent of flesh," Mia scoffed, "but I wonder if their jaws are strong enough." The 2 contrasting fleets finally met on the sea surface. One side embodied technology, order, and cold precision. The other, wildness, chaos, and bloodlust. There was no probing, no communication. Almost the moment they entered each other's firing range, war erupted with a thunderous clash. Damn it! The roar of the Sandwolf King seemed to penetrate the hundreds of meters of seawater. The largest war beast turned its cannon skyward, unleashing the first furious cry. A barrage of sulfurous projectiles, trailing black smoke, formed a blanket of destruction directed at the Judgment Fleet. In the face of this imprecise saturation attack, the Judgment Fleet's response was as graceful as an art performance. The 3 warships advanced rather than retreated, tilting at an astonishing angle. A pale blue energy shield ignited across their hulls. Countless projectiles detonated against the shield, creating ripples yet failing to inflict any damage. Subsequently, the 3 warships simultaneously opened slender weapon bays on their undersides. There was no earth-shattering roar, only the teeth-gritting hum of high-frequency energy. Dozens of blue energy beams, as slender as chopsticks and honed to perfection, descended like scythes of death, precisely sweeping across the chaotic formations of the Sandwolf tribe. A one-sided slaughter commenced. A vessel, repurposed from a shipping container, was cleaved in 2 by an energy beam, the cut as smooth as glass, leaving the scavengers on board unable to utter a scream as they sank into the depths with the severed ship. Several motor speedboats attempting to approach were pinpointed by an energy beam, instantly vaporized into a cloud of mist. The once proud iron tide of the Sandwolf tribe crumbled before the Judgment Fleet's devastating onslaught, as fragile as paper. This is like a celestial clash. A combatant on board the Homeward murmured, gazing at the scene on the screen. Yet, the reason the Sandwolf tribe had become the most feared force in the wasteland was never their equipment, but their reckless madness. Charge! All of you charge! The Sandwolf King's roar echoed as the remaining vehicles, far from retreating, surged forward with even more reckless, suicidal fervor toward the ghost ship. Their goal was clear. If they could reach the platform, the aerial advantage would vanish. Just then, an unexpected twist occurred. The reactor on the ghost ship platform, resembling a demonic heart, seemed to pulse in response to the fierce battle above the surface, suddenly surging with energy. A visible wave of sickly green energy radiated from the platform, spreading violently. Roar! A terrifying roar, not belonging to humanity nor any known creature, erupted from the depths of the sea. The ocean boiled. The deep-sea giants previously attracted by the Homeward, now driven into a frenzy by this new energy surge. A terrifying tentacle, covered in bone armor, erupted from beneath one of the Judgment Fleet's warships, ensnaring its hull with such force that even the energy shield groaned under the strain. Meanwhile, a colossal crab, resembling a hill and adorned with countless compound eyes, emerged from the depths, its massive claws pinching the Sandwolf King's war beast between them. The scene spiraled into chaos. The precise point strikes of the Divine Punishment Fleet, the frenzied charges of the Sandwolf tribe, and the indiscriminate attacks of the deep-sea behemoths converge in a brutal ballet of technology, fury, and savagery upon this sea of death. Explosions, roars, and the screams of the dying intertwine to compose a chaotic symphony of demise. Yet, 500 meters below the surface, within the bridge of the Homeward, an eerie silence prevails. All eyes are transfixed on the screen, beholding a hellish scene, their minds rendered blank. Only Chun Mo's lips curl into a cold smile. Dog-eat-dog. A mouthful of fur. He watches the gruesome spectacle of the three-way melee with a tranquility akin to that of an audience savoring a drama detached from their own existence. The true performance has only just begun. Chapter 79, Singularity, Evolution. Within the bridge of the Homeward, an unsettling stillness blankets the atmosphere. Every gaze is riveted to the main screen, observing the mythic chaos unfolding 500 meters above. The energy beams of the Divine Punishment Fleet strike with the precision of divine judgment, each pass cleaving a path of death through the wild formations of the Sandwolf tribe. The tribe's suicidal charges resemble a pack of enraged dogs, recklessly sacrificing their flesh and blood to deplete the fleet's energy shields, attempting to drag this high-tech operation into the primordial mire of urban warfare. Meanwhile, the deep-sea behemoths, detonated by etheric energy, emerge as the most unpredictable variable, attacking everything that moves upon the surface with their fearsome tentacles and colossal claws, dragging both factions into the abyssal arena of fair competition. The explosive light even penetrates the dense seawater, casting flickering, apocalyptic shadows through the bridge's windows. Mia and her companions watch, hearts racing and palms slick with sweat. In a conflict of this magnitude, should the Homeward find itself embroiled, it would scarcely stir a ripple. Amidst the chaos, however, Chun Mo's pupils suddenly constrict. He keenly perceives a detail overlooked by all. On the sonar feedback's three-dimensional grid, around the platform's light representing the ghost ship, countless minuscule green dots, reminiscent of plankton, are steadily spilling from the platform. Ether is leaking. Under the strain of intense combat, it is accelerating out of the uncontrollable reactor, swiftly diluted and dispersed by the violent currents of the sea. This is a sheer waste. Lin Wan, Long Yu, Chun Mo's voice cuts through the silence. Soft yet resonant, akin to a stone cast into a tranquil lake. Prepare a large suction tube. A suction tube? Lin Wan and Long Yu exchange bewildered glances. Valkyrie. Chun Mo issues a command without elaboration, instructing the external environment detector array to establish a reverse energy siphon field. Long Yu. Calibrate the field frequency to react solely to the free ether, filtering out all other interference. Lin Wan. Monitor the energy core's access point. If it overloads, sever the connection immediately. The gravity of these orders draws gasps from those present. To siphon the most unstable, perilous divine blood beneath the battleground of clashing titans? This is not merely madness. It is a life-or-death tightrope act. Yet, in Lin Wan and Long Yu's eyes, there shines an undeniable fervor. Understood. They respond in unison. Dashing back to their consoles, Lin Wan's hands dance across the holographic interface, reshaping the homeward-s energy conduit at an astonishing pace, constructing a temporary diversion channel between the core and external devices. Long Yu closes her eyes once more, her mind deeply linked with the Valkyrie. The research logs on ether swirl in her thoughts, and she inputs the energy fluctuation frequencies as parameters. On the robust hull of the Homeward, dozens of sensors, typically employed for geological probing and environmental scanning, silently switch their operational modes. Their energy emission ends reverse, and an invisible energy vortex gradually forms around the fortress. A miracle unfolds. The green dots, initially dissipating in the seawater, seem to be drawn by an unseen force, altering their course and converging towards the Homeward, as if returning homeward like weary birds. Delicate, yet pure streams of energy are meticulously siphoned through the invisible field, carefully directed into the depths of the fortress energy core. Boom. The Homeward shudders violently. This tremor surpasses any impact from a colossal beast, as if the very heart of the fortress has been tightly grasped. The lights in the bridge extinguish momentarily, leaving only the frantic red alarms to illuminate the scene, their piercing wails echoing in every corner after a prolonged silence. Overloaded. Core temperature exceeds 30,000 degrees. Energy purity surpasses the safe threshold by 1200%. It's going to explode. Lin Wan shrieks in terror, eyes wide at the screen displaying the rapidly ascending red alert line. Yet, Chen Mo's visage betrays no panic. He grips the captain's armrest tightly, his gaze unwavering, fixated on the three-dimensional model depicting the state of the energy core. The core module does not erupt as Lin Wan anticipated. Instead, it warps and reorganizes, as if a ravenous beast, starved for eons, has begun its long-awaited, frenzied evolution after its first meal. Warning. The energy core is undergoing irreversible evolution. The Valkyrie's voice, now laced with a jarring static, resonates in Chun Mo's mind with an almost fearful tone. High-purity ether energy injection detected. Core protocol triggering singularity mutation. On the screen, the structural diagram of the Homeward-s energy core is enveloped in a blinding white light. As the radiance dissipates, a new singularity, emanating a dim glow akin to a miniature black hole, slowly materializes at the core's center. Singularity engine module unlocked. At this moment, the Homeward's tremors intensify rather than cease. Countless components groan under the immense strain, as if the steel giant could be torn asunder by the internal terror at any moment. Boss, the ship is about to fall apart. Structural pressure exceeds 300%. Lin Wan's voice trembles, tinged with desperation. Warning. The Singularity engine is forcibly merging with the Spatial Transition engine. Fusion progress, 205080, in this instant. The chilling system alerts and the Valkyrie's distorted sirens resonate simultaneously in Chun Mo's mind. Warp travel mode unlocking, Chapter 80, Underflow. The Homeward. This steel behemoth that fell silent after Chun Mo's expedition now resembles a pot of water simmering slowly over a low flame. On the surface, everything appeared orderly. The vegetables in the ecological park remained lush green, the hum of the energy core continued steadily, and the survivors busied themselves at their respective posts. Yet, in the unseen corners, beneath the water's surface, countless bubbles quietly ascended, heralding an impending boiling point. It had been 3 weeks, 3 entire weeks, since Chun Mo and his vessel, the Ark of Home, had gone silent. This ark, which bore the hopes of all, seemed to have been forgotten by the world after its astonishing evolution, vanishing from everyone's perception. Initially, there was concern, later, panic. Now, a more perilous emotion began to spread through the crowd like a virus: ambition. In the communal dining hall of the settlement, a particular corner exuded a distinct atmosphere. At its helm was a man named Wei Jin, a former mid-level manager of the Ark project, perpetually adorned with an elite, persuasive smile. At this moment, he spoke in a magnetic, low voice to the survivors gathered around him. Brothers, we must face reality. It has been 21 days, and even the Valkyrie's response has ceased. Do you understand what this signifies? He did not complete his sentence, but paused just enough to leave ample room for speculation among the crowd. Chen Mo was undoubtedly a hero, yet no one could deny that he had a penchant for risk. This time, he had evidently gone too far. Wei Jin's tone carried a tinge of well-placed regret. The Ark of Home might very well be lost, and we cannot place all our hopes on someone who may never return. Among the crowd, some nodded, others hesitated, but the eyes of many began to waver. What shall we do now? Without Chief Chen Mo, a young man asked anxiously. Thus, we must save ourselves. Wei Jin's voice suddenly rose, charged with incitement. This settlement belongs to all of us, not just to Chinemo. He continued, now that the deity is absent, it is our turn to reclaim our rightful power. His words fell like a spark onto a pile of dry tinder, igniting the crowd's fear of the unknown and confusion about the future into a fervent desire for power and a challenge to the existing order. All of this was witnessed from the opposite end of the dining hall by several leaders responsible for the daily management of the settlement. We cannot allow him to continue inciting like this. One leader whispered, his fists clenched tightly. Sister Su Qing instructed us to maintain order before she left. If this continues, something catastrophic will occur. What can we do? Another leader, Zhao Qian, who had been appointed as the temporary overseer by Chunemo, sighed. Our authority is derived from Chunemo. Now that everyone believes he is dead, who will heed our words? If you attempt to stop him, he will immediately retort, by what right? Where is Chunemo? Let the ark respond to us. How would you answer that? His words rendered everyone silent. Indeed, they resembled a group of eunuchs brandishing feathers as commands. Once the rumor of the emperor's demise spread, they became the most ludicrous targets. Wei Jin had seen through this and dared to act so brazenly. Days later, the situation began to deteriorate further. Dissonant voices began to emerge within the settlement. Mutual aid groups, composed of Wei Jin's loyal supporters, started to assume control over certain area security patrols. Under the guise of ensuring safety, they were effectively carving out their territories. A small reserve supply warehouse was robbed overnight. When Zhao Qian led a team to investigate, they were barred entry by members of the mutual aid group, who claimed that without President Wei's orders, no one could enter. Zhao Qian trembled with anger, but felt powerless. His security personnel numbered only a few dozen, armed with mere light weapons. Meanwhile, Wei Jin had amassed over 100 men, some of whom possessed military-grade automatic rifles. The management had been thoroughly sidelined. The entire settlement was divided by an invisible wall into two factions. On one side were the traditionalists who still believed in Chunmo's return. They were marginalized and forced to huddle in their dormitories, praying for a miracle. On the other side stood the reformists, led by Wei Jin, who, brimming with confidence, controlled an increasing amount of resources and had effectively become the new masters of the settlement. As night fell, a brightly lit workshop, repurposed into a secret armory, buzzed with activity. Dozens of Wei Jin's core subordinates were polishing weapons, their faces illuminated with excited and sinister smiles. The air was thick with the mingled scent of gun oil and strong liquor. Wei Jin stood atop an ammunition crate, surveying the army he had built with unprecedented satisfaction. Once, he had been an inconspicuous figure in the Ark project, trembling under Chun Mo's brilliance. Now, he was on the verge of becoming the new king of this mobile city. Brothers, he exclaimed, arms wide as if preparing to ascend the throne. The time has come. Those fools, led by Zhao Qian, still cling to Chun Mo's legacy. Why should the resources they control, the ecological park they govern, serve only that dead man? Starting tomorrow, everything will belong to us. Food, women, weapons, everything. His voice, like a devil's whisper, ignited the primal desires within everyone. Hooray for Wei Jin. A new era has arrived. The fervent cheers echoed throughout the enclosed workshop. Wei Jin gazed upon it all with satisfaction, a cruel smile curving his lips. Chinemo, indeed, you were a genius. Yet, ultimately, you are dead. Everything you painstakingly built is now mine. Chapter 81. The Ascendancy the following morning. As the settlement's biological clock simulation system transitioned the lights from gentle dawn hues to bright daylight, a long-planned coup erupted with thunderous force. Bang! The door to Zhao Qian's dormitory was kicked open. Before he could react from his bed, several burly men wielding automatic rifles stormed in, their dark muzzles trained squarely on his head. Chief Zhao, the times have changed. The leading man, a close confidant of Wei Jin, smirked insincerely. President Wei invites you for a cup of tea to discuss the future of the settlement. Simultaneously, similar scenes unfolded at various critical points throughout the settlement: the communications room, the security department, and the ecological park control center. Those still loyal to Chunemo, attempting to maintain the existing order, were almost universally subdued. Wei Jin's actions were swift and decisive. He did not resort to mass slaughter, but instead leveraged overwhelming force to disarm and imprison all dissenters. The resistance was negligible. Zhao Qian's meager security forces crumbled before Wei Jin's meticulously prepared armed contingent, appearing as vulnerable as a troop of scouts brandishing sticks. In less than 10 minutes, the entire upper management structure of the settlement was utterly dismantled. At the core of the coup was the central supply warehouse. When Wei Jin swaggered to the warehouse door with his elite team, the few security personnel guarding it turned pale, their hands trembling on their weapons. Lay down your arms. and I shall consider you prudent individuals. Wei Jin wore his signature, elite smile, yet his eyes betrayed no warmth. Or perhaps you wish to risk your lives for a body that might have long since decayed in the meteorite crater. After a few seconds of profound silence, the crisp sound of weapons clattering to the ground echoed. Wei Jin nodded with satisfaction, gesturing for his subordinates to advance. They swiftly employed the electronic key they had prepared to unlock the heavy alloy door. As he beheld the warehouse brimming with mountains of food, medicine, and various supplies, an unmistakable greed and fervor ignited in Wei Jin's eyes. It was done. This steel city now bore his name. Half an hour later, a piercing assembly alarm reverberated through every corner of the settlement. All survivors were ordered to gather at the central square. With a sense of trepidation, they emerged from their dormitories and workplaces, converging in the square. Whispers and murmurs filled the air, a foreboding sense enveloping each heart. At the podium, Wei Jin stood confidently at the center, flanked by dozens of armed, cold-faced loyalists. Zhao Qian and other former management personnel were relegated to one side of the platform. Heads bowed, faces ashen. Witnessing this scene, everyone comprehended that the world had indeed changed. Clearing his throat, Wei Jin grasped the megaphone and began his coronation speech in his resonant voice. Brothers and sisters of the homeward, please be silent. The once boisterous crowd gradually quieted, thousands of gazes focusing intently upon him. I understand that many of you are confused and fearful, but trust me, I, Wei Jin, do everything for your sake, for our survival. His opening remarks were grandiose, laced with insincerity. Chun Mo is a hero, and we all owe him our gratitude. He led us out of despair and established this miraculous haven. His tone shifted to one of sorrow. However, he was too impulsive, too confident. In pursuit of greater power, he took the core team of the homeward to confront entities beyond our comprehension. It has now been 21 days without a word. His voice carried just the right touch of sorrow, as if genuinely mourning Chun Mo's sacrifice. A wave of suppressed agitation rippled through the crowd. We cannot deceive ourselves any longer. Wei Jin's voice suddenly rose, filled with fervor. God has fallen. We cannot entrust our future to a promise that can no longer be fulfilled. We must save ourselves. From this day forth, I will take control of everything in the homeward. I promise to establish a new order that is fairer and more efficient. As long as you are willing to labor, you shall receive sustenance. As long as you obey the rules, you shall receive protection. The era of Chun Mo is over. The old rules will be completely abolished. This is a new era, an era belonging to each and every one of us. He spread his arms wide, like a savior embracing a new world. His loyalists immediately led the charge, erupting in thunderous applause and cheers. Long live Chairman Wei! Long live the new era! The fervent shouts echoed across the square. Wei Jin reveled in the scene before him, gazing at the compliant, awed, and fervent faces in the crowd, including Zhao Qian, whom he had reduced to a state akin to a cornered dog. An unprecedented sensation of power surged through him, overwhelming him with an intoxicating thrill. He raised his hand, signaling for silence. Then, summoning all his might, he bellowed his proclamation of successful usurpation. Now I declare, the new era of the homeward has officially begun. At the pinnacle of his triumph, an unexpected turn of events unfolded. No one noticed the eerie distortion in the simulated night sky above the settlement. Adorned with a few dim stars, it appeared as if an invisible brush had gently traced a line on the inky canvas. A crack, a silent, consuming void that devoured light emerged, tearing through the sky directly above Wei Jin. A child standing at the edge of the square was the first to perceive the bizarre phenomenon. Pointing at the sky, he exclaimed, "Mom, look, the sky is splitting." More and more people followed his gaze upward. In that instant, all movements froze. The jubilant cheers came to an abrupt halt. Wei Jin's arrogant smile froze on his face as he beheld that dark crack, resembling a drawn curtain, through which an immense and unfathomable steel behemoth, both familiar and alien, began to emerge with solemnity. It was the homeward. No, it was entirely transformed from what it had been when it departed. Its exterior was no longer the rough metallic hue, but instead bore a deep, obsidian-like texture. The complex external apparatus had vanished, replaced by sleek, flowing lines. Strands of ethereal blue energy coursed along the hull, akin to the veins of a colossal beast. There was no roar of engines, no cacophony of descent. It hovered silently, like a specter from a distant future, above the settlement. A vast shadow enveloped the entire square. An intangible terror, born from an overwhelming presence of life, descended upon every heart like an invisible mountain. Silence reigned in the square. The raucous cheers, moments ago so vibrant, felt as if muted by an unseen force. Wei Jin gazed upward, transfixed by the imposing moving fortress above him, its divine majesty rendering his complexion pale, visibly drained of color. Chapter 82, Judgment Impossible. This could not be happening. Wasn't Shin Mo already dead? Hadn't the homeward been reduced to mere scrap in the meteorite craters? What was this ghostly warship? As if emerging from a science fiction film, fear pierced through Wei Jin like countless icy needles, leaving him feeling like a fish on a chopping block, awaiting the fall of the butcher's knife, devoid of any strength to struggle. Below the podium, the survivors who had fervently cheered for the new era now stood in stunned silence. They gazed at the massive, glowing entity, feeling the absolute technological supremacy emanating from it, extinguishing the ambition and desire that had just ignited within them. This was no longer a presence of the same dimension. If the homeward before Chun Mo's departure had been a terrestrial titan, then this vessel was a detached god, soaring through the skies. Seconds stretched on, feeling like an eternity. Just as everyone's nerves reached their breaking point, a voice unexpectedly resonated throughout the settlement. It was not Chun Mo's voice. Instead, it was a cold, emotionless female synthetic voice, reminiscent of countless shards of crystal grinding against one another. Initiate the internal disciplinary correction protocol. Threat level identified. Class 1, internal armed coup. Lock onto primary target. The voice emanated from all directions, from every loudspeaker in the square, from personal terminals on every wrist, and even resonating deep within the minds of some individuals. It was omnipresent, piercingly clear to the point of inducing chills. Wei Jin's pupils constricted into the most perilous pinpoints. The Valkyrie. It was the core of the homeward. It had actually been restored. Primary target, Wei Jin. The frigid electronic voice accurately announced his name. A member of the ARC project. He had begun disseminating false information about the commander's demise within the settlement 21 days ago, inciting panic and undermining the stability of their community. 18 days prior, under the guise of a mutual aid society, he secretly gathered personnel, hoarding and modifying weapons, totaling 127 pieces. 12 days ago, he instructed subordinates Wang Tao and Li Si to breach the supplies warehouse in Zone 3, stealing resources and obstructing the administrator's investigation. An hour ago, he instigated an armed coup, unlawfully imprisoning the settlement's overseer Zhao Qian and 17 other administrators, forcefully seizing control of the central supply warehouse in an attempt to overturn the existing order. The Valkyrie's voice remained devoid of inflection, calmly enumerating the facts. Yet each fact struck Wei Jin's heart like a heavy hammer, resonating within the souls of every survivor in the square. His body began to tremble uncontrollably. He wished to argue, to claim it was all slander, to question what evidence they possessed. Yet, no words escaped his lips. He understood that the Valkyrie's statements were undeniably true. His clandestine plans, shrouded in secrecy, appeared as transparent as a child's crude doodles on glass before this omniscient entity, laid bare for all to see. The gazes of the surrounding survivors shifted from initial awe and fervor to terror, disdain, and anger. The so-called pursuit of collective good, the promise of a new era, was revealed to be a complete sham, built upon lies and conspiracy. The Valkyrie's judgment continued. Secondary target, Zhang Meng. Former security team member. Charges, dereliction of duty. Colluding with Wei Jin to imprison superiors, threatening colleagues with force, primary supplementary offenses. Among the crowd, a burly man turned as pale as a ghost. He was the one who had just kicked open Zhao Qian's door. Secondary target, Lu San. Former technician of the ecological park. Charges, abusing his position to sabotage the ecological park's surveillance system, facilitating rebellion, primary supplementary offenses. A thin man wearing glasses crumpled to the ground, his legs giving way beneath him. Secondary targets, Wang Tao, Li Si. The Valkyrie's chilling electronic voice, akin to that of a Reaper's roll call, continued to announce the names and offenses of Wei Jin's core team, one after another. With each name, the crowd stirred. A traitor, pale-faced, stood exposed under the fearful gazes of those around him. Every core rebel was accounted for. Their conspiracies and transgressions were laid bare for all to witness. When the final name was uttered, the Valkyrie paused momentarily. Then, in her emotionless tone, she delivered the final verdict. The trial is concluded. Initiate the cleansing protocol. The moment her voice fell, a subtle yet jarring mechanical whirring echoed from all corners of the square. Concealed panels silently slid open from the walls surrounding the square, from the ceiling's interstices, and even from the grates beneath the feet of the crowd. Dozens of sleek, hidden defense turrets, gleaming with a cold metallic sheen and previously unseen, emerged like venomous serpents awakening from slumber. Their blackened muzzles emitted a faint blue glow, precisely locking onto Wei Jin at the podium and the several core rebels named amidst the crowd. An unprecedented sense of mortal peril enveloped everyone. No. Wei Jin finally broke free from his overwhelming fear, letting out a frantic scream as he turned to flee the podium. The other named rebels, like cats whose tails had been stepped on, screeched, attempting to blend into the crowd or draw weapons for a final struggle. But it was too late. There was no hail of bullets, no carnage. Zap! Dozens of dazzling arcs of electricity shot from the turrets at a speed surpassing visual perception. They made no thunderous roar. Only the heart-stopping hiss of high-voltage currents slicing through the air was heard. Wei Jin had barely taken 2 steps when an arc struck him squarely in the back. He had no time to emit a cry of agony. His body stiffened and convulsed violently, hair standing on end, froth erupting from his mouth as he collapsed. Akin to a fish thrown ashore, Zhang Mang, who attempted to draw his gun in resistance, was engulfed by an arc as thick as a bowl, his body and weapon consumed in a blinding flash of light. He danced madly amidst the electric brilliance before collapsing to the ground, charred and lifeless. Those rebels attempting to blend into the crowd were similarly seized by arcs that seemed to possess eyes, swiftly felled one after another. The entire ordeal lasted less than 3 seconds. In the square, all named core rebels lay prostrate, their bodies twitching uncontrollably. Yet, the ordinary survivors around them remained untouched. This was a clean, efficient, and chillingly precise surgical strike. The square fell into a suffocating silence once more. The ordinary followers, incited by Wei Jin and still clutching their weapons, stared blankly at this scene that resembled divine retribution, then glanced up at the silent, hovering iron deity above. Their minds blank. Clank. A weapon slipped from trembling hands, the first to fall to the ground with a resounding clatter. This sound was akin to the first domino in a chain reaction. Clank, clank, clank. The sound of weapons dropping echoed in succession. Soon, all armed participants in the rebellion, like those discarding a hot potato, cast their weapons aside, raising their hands high, many kneeling on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Resistance? With what could they resist? Would they confront an omniscient deity with mere makeshift weapons? This farcical coup, from inception to conclusion, spanned no more than an hour. Yet, it had come to a definitive end. Under the awed and fearful gazes of all survivors, the Valkyrie's cold electronic voice resonated once more, delivering the final decree to this farce. The rebellion has been suppressed. Order has been restored. All personnel await the commander's next directive. Chapter 83. The new codex and new members. As the Valkyrie's frigid voice faded, the entire square descended into a silence deeper than death itself. The ghostly warship, seemingly hewn from obsidian, floated silently in mid-air, heralding the return of the divine, just as the hearts of all present threatened to leap from their throats. A soft hiss echoed as a hatch on the belly of the homeward slid open without a sound. A figure descended slowly along the luminous staircase, clad not in cumbersome armor, but in a simple black combat uniform. His pace was unhurried, yet each step resonated like a heartbeat among the crowd. His face was devoid of expression, and his deep-set eyes surveyed the multitude below, which bore faces marked by awe, fear, or the relief of survival. It was Chinemo. He had returned. As his feet touched the podium, the few remaining rebels, who had dared to stand, felt their legs give way and collapsed to the ground. The liberated Zhao Qian and others were overwhelmed with emotion, tears welling in their eyes, their lips quivering yet unable to form words. Chun Imo did not glance at the rebels incapacitated on the ground, nor did he assist his former comrades. Instead, he calmly approached the center of the podium and picked up the loudspeaker recently used by Wei Jin. He did not need to rally like Wei Jin, for he himself embodied order. The Valkyrie had declared the principal offender. Chun Mo's voice, amplified through the loudspeaker, resonated across the square, calm yet laced with undeniable authority. As for the accomplices, I shall spare your lives. At this proclamation, those armed individuals who had cast down their weapons momentarily expressed relief. Yet, his next words plunged them back into despair. While you may evade death, you shall not escape punishment. From this day forth, a redemption camp shall be established within the settlement. All participants in this rebellion will be stripped of their resident status and conscripted into the camp. You will undertake the hardest and most perilous labor until you earn your freedom through sweat and contribution. He paused, allowing his gaze to sweep over the ordinary survivors. In the 21 days of my absence, much has transpired. This indicates that the previous rules have developed flaws. Therefore, from this day forth, the homeward shall enact a new code of laws. Chen Mo's voice grew cold and sharp. I shall name it the Code of Contribution. The first decree, the fixed supply allocation system, is abolished. The food, shelter, and energy quotas of all will be linked to your contribution points. which can be earned by completing tasks assigned by the settlement. Farming, research, combat, maintenance, and even cleaning toilets will all yield distinct points. The more industrious and efficient you are, the better your accommodations will be, with single suites and regular meat meals. Those who choose to be idle shall subsist solely on basic nutrient paste and share dormitories with 10 others. The second decree: all armed forces will be centralized under the homeward's command. No one shall hoard weapons or form factions. The settlement shall establish an order enforcement team under direct jurisdiction, empowered to execute immediate justice against those who breach the rules. The third decree: a personal credit rating system shall be instituted. All residents will start with a qualifying credit level. Those who contribute actively shall see their credit raised, while those who violate the code shall see theirs diminished. Your credit rating will affect the efficiency of your contribution point acquisition and the level of tasks you may undertake. Those who declare bankruptcy and credit will be expelled from the homeward. These 3 new decrees loomed over everyone like mountains, simple yet brutally fair. It was a cold, mechanical system that eliminated human laziness and chance, placing the concept of value squarely before all. If you wish to live well, you must prove your worth. Upon finishing, Chen Mo set down the loudspeaker, affording no one the opportunity to question or oppose him. He turned to the awestruck Zhao Qian beside him and said, "Zhao Qian." "Yes, boss." Zhao Qian straightened abruptly. "Confiscate all assets of the rebels. Seize everything they have taken. All resources they have usurped must be returned. And all individuals they enslaved must be released and re-registered." "Understood." Zhao Qian complied, swiftly leading the liberated personnel to execute the orders. Chen Mo's gaze finally fell upon Wei Jin, who lay charred and twitching from the electric shock. "Bring him along," he said softly. "I have matters to inquire of him personally." Half an hour later, within the most opulent suite forcibly claimed by Wei Jin, chaos reigned. The room had been transformed into his private palace, adorned with lavish carpets of unknown origin and half-consumed bottles of fine wine adorning the table. In one corner stood a small private weapons rack. Zhao Qian directed security personnel, meticulously cataloging and removing Wei Jin's plundered spoils. As Chen Mo entered the room, his gaze landed on a makeshift kitchen in a corner. There, a woman in tattered maid attire huddled against the stove, knees drawn to her chest, trembling. She appeared youthful, perhaps in her early 20s, yet malnutrition rendered her gaunt. Her face was smudged with soot, her hair disheveled, yet her eyes shone with a mixture of terror and an indomitable spirit incongruent with her plight. "Boss, this is the survivor we found." Taken by Wei Jin to serve as his personal cook, Zhao Qian reported quietly. Wei Jin, that beast, was so finicky about the communal meals that he sought out this poor soul to prepare his special dishes daily. Chen Mo remained silent, observing the woman. At that moment, an icy system prompt echoed within his mind, unbidden. Ding. Detected a highly compatible special talent. Name: Xiao Xian. Occupation: executive chef, pre-catastrophe. Rarity: compatibility modules, logistics, ecology. Agriculture: status: starving, terrified, severely malnourished. Comprehensive evaluation: a gem buried in a cesspit. Her understanding of nutritional food, intuitive pairing of ingredients, and resource management have reached an artistic level. Given a proper kitchen, she could feed the most with minimal resources, enhancing their happiness by 50%. Chen Mo raised an eyebrow slightly. Executive chef? He regarded the frail woman, who seemed as if a mere gust could topple her, and found it difficult to reconcile her with the system's extravagant appraisal. Yet he never doubted the system's judgment. With a wave of his hand, he signaled Zhao Qian and the others to leave. The room was left with just him and the woman named Xiao Xian. Feeling the weight of his scrutinizing gaze, she trembled even more, burying her head deeper, unable to face the legendary man who had just subdued everything with an iron fist. "Your name is Xiao Xian?" Chen Mo spoke, his tone flat. The woman shuddered, managing to emit a voice as faint as a whisper. "Yes." "You were a chef before the catastrophe?" "Yes. At a hotel." "Look up." After a moment's hesitation, Xiao Xian slowly raised her head, her wide, fearful eyes meeting Chen Mo's. He saw no flattery nor pleading in her gaze, only an acceptance of fate awaiting judgment. He suddenly felt a sense of tedium. "Your skills do not befit such a pigsty." He gestured towards the rudimentary kitchen. Xiao Xian was momentarily taken aback. "I require someone capable of managing the logistics of the entire settlement, cultivating food, rationing, processing, and balancing nutrition, as well as recycling resources." Chen Mo's voice exhibited no tremor, as if he were stating an undeniable truth. "My ark will construct for you the most sophisticated central kitchen amidst this wasteland. I shall procure all the equipment you desire and every ingredient you can possibly find. I have but one request. He gazed into Qiao Xian's eyes, enunciating each word deliberately. Ensure that all my people are well-fed and nourished. Will you accept this? Qiao Xian stood frozen, staring at the man before her. Her mind a blank slate. She had anticipated being treated like an object, redistributed or cast into a penitentiary camp. She had envisioned countless dismal fates, yet never this. Hope arrived with such suddenness, so surreal. Moments later, an overwhelming joy surged through her. Tears cascaded from her bright eyes without warning. She sprang to her feet, slightly dizzy from the abruptness, yet she mustered all her strength to bow deeply before Chen Mo, her voice quivering with excitement. I am willing. At the instant she nodded. A system notification echoed in Chen Mo's mind once more. Ding! Congratulations, Commander. The extraordinarily rare logistical talent, Qiao Xian, has joined your ranks. Logistical Ecological Optimization Module has been unlocked. Module function allows real-time monitoring of the entire food production, storage, and consumption chain within the settlement via a data panel. Automatically generates optimal nutritional meal plans to enhance the well-being of all residents. Significantly reduces resource waste in production and daily life, initiating an ecological recycling system. A faint smile finally graced Chen Mo's lips. The king had returned, restoring order. Moreover, he had discovered a treasure. This journey proved rewarding.